Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like what you guys are watching, like, share, subscribe, follow the channel. Let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so one of the things that I want to mention about this video right here, and the reason why I want to bring it up is because there are some things that I do highly believe that we have to pay very close attention to the situation. I don't know if you guys remember what happened with Alligator Alcatraz, right? I don't know if you guys know that somebody correct me if I'm wrong right here. I think they already closed the facility down, right? Now, the last 2 weeks or so, right? I've noticed that there's an increase momentum towards this force that's coming towards us, right? With the situation that's happening with the administration, there's a lot of things that can be said about this, and I'm gonna give you guys what this guy is saying right here, and how is that related to the immigration problem and what he's saying. Now, I'm gonna start the video, get you guys some coffee, get you guys something. You guys saying it's about an hour and a half. I don't know if I played the whole thing, but I'll try to play the whole thing. But we're gonna get into the. Let me pull it up real quick. I think that should be the video right there. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it up over here on also on YouTube. Everything looks good over here. All right, guys. So I'm gonna play this. It's about an hour and a half long. I'm gonna try to stop it a few times, but we're gonna get right into it and watch the whole video right now. Oh, not that one. Not that one. Let me take that out. Let me see this one right here. Okay. So I'm gonna start playing it now. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the UFO Whistleblower Marathon. This is a three-part series. Each one of these three men have testified under oath in front of Congress. Our first guest is Michael Herrera, who witnessed a human trafficking operation in Indonesia where UFOs were involved. If you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Leave us a review on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And for those of you that are content creators, we've seen you taking our episodes and making your own content out of it, and we love it. In fact, we made it super easy on you. Go in the description. There's a file down there. It has lots of free produced reels for you to make whatever content you want out of it, monetize it, make money, do whatever you do. All we ask is just tag the show. Love you all. Please enjoy the show. There's two more coming. Michael Herrera,
Sean,
welcome to the show,
hey,
man.
thank you for having me here, brother.
It's an honor.
No, the honor is mine, dude. Seriously, there's so many people that are pivotal in this environment, I should say, that you've placed in this chair that have made other people uncomfortable with what they've talked about. A lot of people who understand not all is what it appears. So hopefully I get to add to that and share with the rest of the world, at least in the sense of what you're doing, because like I told you, I'm not talking to media about this.
Well, I appreciate it, brother.
Well, you're all about the truth these days just as much as I am, and it's ridiculous how much is being concealed for a narrative, and frankly, I'm disgusted with it.
I am too. You know, we try to do a number of things here, and the things that I try to do is document history from our military heroes, because nobody else is doing it. Bring truth, uncover corruption, and bring hope. We bring a lot of hope. You know, a lot of guys that are struggling, and women, you know what I mean, that are struggling and overcoming all that trauma. That's what we try to do here. And with you, we're bringing truth.
Yes, we are.
So,
And out of that, I want to bring hope too. You know, it's not just with what I'm dealing with amongst the other people here that, have amazing stories too. As much as it sounds outlandish, and don't get me wrong, I think, I can agree to that, at least with the outside perspective. Because before my event, I was actually very skeptical on it. I'm like, oh, that doesn't exist. ETs don't exist. Aliens don't exist. It's only out of movies and stuff. And it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, some of those movies. But then this event changed my life in that degree because it confirmed a lot that day. It confirmed multiple facets, not just with, the technology aspect of it, but just the level of corruption and how deep this thing goes, and needless to say, it's something that was a catalyst for other things to at least kind of change my life, to start not looking into it with directly, but just try to go deeper. What actually makes things happen,
yeah.
So.
Well, let me give you a quick introduction here real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Michael Herrera, you were in Indonesia in 2009. You had a UAP/UFO encounter. you were a U.S. Marine 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines,
Yes.
and you were at Operation Ketsana, correct?
Yes, and Ketsana was in the Philippines, and we didn't participate in anything that. We actually got routed to go to Indonesia in that take. We're the only ship. So a lot of people are getting confused with that. The rest of the 7th Fleet stayed there, and we were the only element to actually go to Indonesia, far western side of Sumatra.
We'll get into all that.
Yep.
Before we do, everybody that comes on the show gets a gift.
Uh-oh.
Yep. Any guesses?
As long as it's not an explosive device, I think we'll be fine.
You better listen. Make sure it's not ticking.
Oh. What's not ticking? Let's see what we got here.
It's our
Ooh.
Vigilance Elite Gummy Bears.
Gummy bears. I got some stickers, man. Nobody else has these stickers, by the way, too.
Nobody else does. But
Wow.
I don't know. Fortunately or unfortunately for you, I'm not sure which. Those are legal in all 50 states, so you don't have to worry about getting them through the airport security or anything. But you live in Colorado, so
Hey, they got a little bit relaxed loss of that. Sean, thank you for the gift, brother.
you're welcome,
Appreciate it.
But so we connected through Dr. Greer
Correct.
at his conference in D.C. He brought in a handful of whistleblowers. You were one of them.
Yes.
Greer came on the show. He wanted a military audience, and I believe to get whistleblowers after the new law got passed, where there was
Yes.
protection for people to come out.
And it's funny you say that because 2017, Dr. Greer actually came to Colorado. He was hosting an event in Boulder, kind of doing some disclosure, kind of talking about some of the technology with the ATs, UAPs, and just reverse engineer stuff. Just kind of go like the whole grand scheme of things. It was like a several-hour presentation. And I had my ex there at the time, and I kind of hinted to her that I needed to talk about some things with him. So he was doing a book signing. So I go over to his table, I snag a book, and I'm like, hey, can you sign this? And I was like, by the way, there's some things I need to talk to you about. And he kind of looked at me weird, and I said, it's very serious. So he handed me his card, and he says, don't ever relay this information out to anybody. And me knowing with what I knew at the time, which obviously there was some stuff that were in the works until they recently passed here last year, 2 days either before or after Christmas when they put this law, which I think it's the only good thing the administration's done so far, to be realistically speaking. I don't care if that makes people uncomfortable to know, but it's helped me out among other people. It might be the only good thing he's ever done. Fast forward to your show. You had him on the first time. And my fiance and me were watching it, and that's when he started relaying the information and started talking about the law that was being passed. And that's when I decided to reach out to him. And he knew exactly who I was, which was great. It was like talking to a friend for a while. Now I was going to call him out of the blue, and it's just like everything just resumes back to normal. So I expressed to him, told him my story, my encounter with this, and what happened. So then we arranged everything to go talk with the Senate Intelligence Committee, Congress, Senate, Pentagon, all that fun stuff. And it was a journey. It was definitely something that opened my eyes to a lot more, because here I'm thinking my event was something that was more specific. But come to find out, I'm just a cog in the wheel with this whole big thing, because there's other facets that I'm also confirming these guys' stories too, to a degree. Mm-hmm. The corruption, secret organizations that have some pull in this, and obviously some of the nasty stuff that they're doing. And there's other people down the road who are going to corroborate what I'm talking about too. I don't know who they are. Maybe some of the Marines that I encountered this with too. So I'm hoping that that's what's, at least if the message gets put out there from the show, I'm hoping that that's what it does. Is it can get people to actually do something about it and not be afraid of it like I was. It was 14 years,
Yeah.
A lot of weight to carry. Try to sweep it under, but the more you try to do that, whatever you resist persists. That's always a golden rule.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a damn good point. So just a quick synopsis here. You responded to a 7.6 magnitude earthquake and a tsunami hit in western Indonesia. Only your crew was routed to that location to provide support. Indonesia has a large terrorist population. The Marine crew was armed and tasked to provide security along with medical equipment and food supplies. But it was just your unit.
Yes.
which there was 5 of you, correct?
Yes, there was. And so they ended up choosing the Marines out of my unit, at least in the company, to go out. So it's not like every single Marine in the company was able to do this. They just handpicked people to go on these sticks of 6 Marines. So originally it was supposed to be more of like a deterrence, but also overwatch protection. So that way these helos can drop the supplies. The logistics groups that were a part of it can then render aid or whatever it is to the local population there.
Was it volunteer or were you hand selected?
Hand selected.
Okay.
Or voluntold, I should say.
Okay. Voluntold. Good way to put it.
Yep.
And I'm just curious, what are you hoping to accomplish by coming out?
I want other people who have witnessed similar things or are part of certain things that are very controversial but end up being true to come out and understand that what's going on is not acceptable. And this is just a facet of corruption. It may not be the political corruption that's coming out now that people are witnessing with their own eyes. People call them conspiracy theories. What I'm hoping to achieve is to get other people on board to understand that the government supports what we're doing because they were in the dark about this too. And now they're coming out and they're actually putting the hammer down. Recent bills that have been passing as far as the legislation through the Senate Intelligence Committee saying that these corporations have to give the goods here in 6 months or else there's going to be some consequences they're going to face either through the judicial system, which obviously the government's got a lot of weight with that. The other aspect of it too is that they're going to ban these companies from doing contracting work for the government, which means they're going to lose billions of dollars. They're going to go broke. So I'm hoping that they actually comply with this measure because one, this technology is going to help benefit humanity as a whole. Not in a militaristic sense because that's just foolish. It's more to help out humanity because now everybody's going to be on the same level technology-wise. I think the common ground here and the narrative with that is you're hearing people come out, at least in the mainstream media, is trying to talk about ETs being evil. My event had nothing to do with ETs. And there's some misconstrued concepts that are going about. The technology may have came from ETs at one point, and that's what we witnessed. But we witnessed much more of a sinister plot with this, that they're using it. For people who don't know, 2009 during this operation, that's why we're responding, obviously with the humanitarian nature of this, because 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, that's mainly what the expertise is, at least as far as Marines go. It's not really combat operations for the most part, even
I want to say real quick to you guys. Notice how he said 2009 this happened, this situation that he's talking about. Around 2009 is when I was telling you guys earlier that a lot of the information that was out there. This is before the explosion of the technology of like the internet and the search engines. I didn't caught that right now. I didn't hear that before, but that's around the time that I noticed that they took a lot of things from the internet that would make these claims, and you can verify those claims.
though Indonesia, among other parts in that world, are large networks for terrorists and insurgents. So having that expertise of going in and try to help people, I think is also good to us because it teaches you the balance of it. Instead of being a war fighter, you actually get to help people. Instead of launching bullets at people, you're still helping people in a different cause. You still get to be heroes for people, which is great. So totally incidental as far as our encounter. When we went onto the slope, because we had our LZ, it was a hasty LZ, and they're dropping supplies. They have, a bunch of stuff, and it's other helos too. They're just kind of forming a perimeter on the city, dropping Marines here. You could provide overwatch. Now, the only thing that's unsettling with this is the fact that they never gave us any comms. You know as well as I do how risky that is.
You didn't have any comms?
We didn't have any comms.
Interesting.
So the Marine that was with me, that was a higher rank than me, was very pissed off about it because he was a Fallujah Marine, so he went through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And one of those things, I remember him kept telling me, he's like, if everything ends up going to shit, and you look at me and if I'm fine, it means that you're going to be fine. And I remember him telling us all that in the stick, and he's a good Marine. He's a very outstanding guy. Learned a lot from him during my time in. And I thought about that concept, but then he started picking things apart too. He wasn't very comfortable with that. But luckily the thing is that we were still relatively, close enough to the LZ, because when the bird was supposed to land, because obviously they were coming in, dropping the supplies, and they'd bank off. The last one that would come down would land. That's when we'd basically run to the helo, 300 meters. You're in good shape, and you have an average combat load, 120 rounds, so to speak, with an M16A4 and a Camelback. Not really much, so you can make that trek relatively quick. But they also have security on those birds too. With the flight crew, with the gunners on the sides, they had 50s on them. So if there is some opposition, they're going to meet with those on top of us engaging them. So we were positioned near the slope. You know, it wasn't like a steep grade or anything, but it was enough to obscure what was going on the other side that we had no idea what was going on. So we got, you know, naturally you want to take the high ground so you have observation of everything. And this is when we came across this operation. And it was something that stuck out like a sore thumb, because here you have terrain that is a jungle terrain, very green vegetation, things like that. And then you have something that's sticking out right in the middle of an opening, and it looks very odd. It's something that's, you know, I'll remember to the rest of my life. To the day that I leave this earth, I'm going to remember seeing that, and it's just imprisoned up here. I had a camera with me. It was a Panasonic cheap camera. You know, it had kind of like, you know, ancient compared to what you got set up in the studio, you know, but it was enough at least because it was part of stuff that I've never did a humanitarian assistance before. So I was taking videos of them dropping.
Just so you guys know, they just took this stream down on YouTube. They don't want people to know this stuff, guys. They actually don't want people to find out this stuff and be in the notice for this. I just noticed on my phone they took the stream down on YouTube. It tells you that these people are panicking. The institution is panicking with everything. Something big is happening, and something things big is about to happen. Because normally they don't do that on YouTube. YouTube has never taken a stream down. Just so you guys know. So like, we got to pay really close attention because they know something we don't, and I think we got to prepare for it.
Stuff off, things like that, until we trekked up to this point. Was taking some pictures because it's a place you would never really ever go to, at least the real part of Indonesia. It's not like Bali or Surabaya where it's like touristy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, this is where it's actual cultured people. You're actually seeing reality here. So it's stuff that I kind of wanted to document and just say, you know, I was a part of this. I can look back and say, you know, oh, I remember that. But then looking north past that slope and seeing that down, and I took some video and some pictures of that. And I had, you know, I stuck it in my dump pouch. You know, I was a saw gunner naturally, you know, so I had M249. That was my favorite weapon. I liked having a belt-fed machine gun. As much as a pain in the ass, I liked having that compared to an M16 or an M4. So because we were in a humanitarian, all they did was give us M16A4s. You know, they had it, RCOs at that time. They weren't the ACOGs that had the mills on the sides for windage and stuff like that. As well as the PEC-15s, you know, so if we were doing any kind of night range or night operation, we'd have those with our PVS-14s. So it's just a very basic loadout that we were doing, you know, nothing really crazy. And when we saw this happen, and I want to say unidentified because right now it's identified. Everybody knows what they are now. They're either man-made or they're not. And if they're not, the government's coming out and telling people, admitting it, not directly, but they're still admitting it to a degree that it exists. Because why would they spend time with this legislation coming out?
That's a good point.
Why would they do that? If it doesn't exist, why were they going through these measures to basically hold a gun up to these guys' heads and say, you better relinquish this technology or else? They're not just doing it, and knowing and seeing this unfold, even being in this position of having to brief the Senate Intelligence among the Special Intelligence Service too, which oversees the letter agencies, because they have no idea what's going on either. But the fact that all of us coming together and making this loud amount of noise to get something done about it is just astounding. And now they're finally, for the first time in history, they're going through with this and actually trying to do something about it for their own understanding, but also know the corruption that comes from this.
Yeah.
It's multiple different facets.
I mean, you guys already, all five of you, right, already testified in front of Congress?
So we testified to people of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which were there's some Congress people there as well as some senators.
So in front of the Intelligence Committee by the Senate?
And you know, and you know as well as I do, in any kind of setting like that, whether you're in a skiff, it's all under oath still, because they're having you sign NDAs and things like that. So you're expected to be truthful with this. Mm-hmm. And seeing the reaction,
big deal.
It is a very big deal. It was nerve-wracking at first because I'm not used to talking to government officials in that nature. And having the support that they've been giving me as well as the protection is just something that I'm very thankful for. I'm very thankful that they all have open minds of this subject.
I want to tell you all about this new meat delivery service I found called Moink. What I really, really like about Moink is they are from a small, rural farm town in Missouri, LaBelle, Missouri, right by where I grew up, and I love supporting small town business USA. Now, when I started looking into Moink, they educated me on the meat industry, and I want to share with you all a couple of facts, according to Moinked magazine. 60% of all pork is produced by one company in the U.S., and that is 100% owned by the Chinese. 4 companies control over 80% of the meat industry in the United States. More than 10,000 different additives are allowed in the U.S. food supply. 99% of chicken, 95% of hogs, 78% of cattle in the U.S. are raised in confinement buildings or feedlots. Means they're not moving around freely. 80% of the antibiotics consumed in the U.S. are fed to animals. Here's a stat. In 2016, 18.4 million pounds of antibiotics were sold for livestock. And that's what you're eating. Suicide rates amongst farmers are the highest than any other profession, and that includes veterans, believe it or not. I found that alarming. Now, here's what Moink is doing to combat some of this stuff, which I really appreciate. Their livestock is 100% born and raised and harvested humanely in the United States of America. Their farms practice regenerative agricultural methods. They are free of GMOs, antibiotics, and all hormones. Their Alaska salmon is wild caught. Their beef and lamb are grass-fed and grass-finished. Their boxes ship from rural America, right in small town Missouri. Love it. Their chicken and pork are pasture raised. So, guys, check them out. Moink. Keep America farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/SRS. Right now, listeners on this show get free bacon in your first box. It will be the best bacon you will ever taste, but it's only for a limited time. It's spelled Moink, MOINK, box.com/SRS. That's moinkbox.com/SRS.
Even though there, for years there's been a stigma to it. For years there's been a giggle effect because of little green men and flying saucers and all that. I myself never thought to this day that I'd ever see anything like this. So going back to the event, we decided to get in a tactical column and approach this, right? And we got down the slope, and it's just like a clearing and just has this big opening. It's almost a little bit more than the football field because this craft took up a majority of that.
So let's just back up for a
Yeah.
minute. Let's describe the setting, because at first you said there were helos doing racetracks
Yes.
around. Is this the same opening that you described earlier that you were watching helos drop supplies in?
No.
Okay.
So where this was happening was southwest, at least where the helo insertion points were with the LZs that they were setting up, and they were flying very low in consideration, right? So, and the reason why I know this is because I asked the pilots after this, because I was in the officers' mess and I knew their call signs, and I approached them and I asked them very respectfully if they noticed anything strange. None of them said anything.
Okay.
So I was trying to see if they could get a view of a topside, because this is just something that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So also their call signs all stuck out too, because pilots like to do crazy stuff with their call signs, so it was very easy to track them down. But having this happen on the north part of the slope and it goes down, and obviously, the way it was transitioning colors, which was kind of the way that it appealed, because it was transitioning for a light matte black, a light matte gray to a dark matte black, and just kind of ranging in between, right?
Let's rewind a little bit before we get into the description.
Okay.
What was the activity with all the other helicopters? Were they active at the time that you saw the
Honestly,
UAP?
When we started going down there, no.
Okay.
And I don't know, because obviously we're occupied with this.
How far do you think it was?
So from the LZ where we were at was 300 meters roughly, okay, plus the slope that was concealing plus vegetation. Down the slope, it was like 400 meters maybe. So we got close. We trucked down quite a bit.
Okay.
About 150 meters outside, 150, 200, right? Halfway. And
So maybe about a click away.
Possibly, yeah.
At the
The
farthest.
craft itself might have been a click out.
Okay.
Yeah. And as like I said, the reason why I know how big this thing was, because
Did you see it as you crested the
Yes.
the hill?
yes, I did, and that's where I took videos and pictures of this thing. That's how I was able to see it, because taking pictures of the chaos going behind and everything. You see the rubble, burning buildings, flooding, and all that kind of stuff, and then you turn around. And I'm like,
So you crest this hill.
yep,
You look down into the valley.
yep.
And there's a clearing.
There's a clearing
with a UAP
Yes.
just sitting there.
Sitting there
hovering.
rotating clockwise, yep. And that's in transition this color spectrum I was telling you too. And that's why it's something that stuck out. It's not a building, It's not something that you're used to seeing. Maybe topside it could have looked like a building or something that, I don't know. I don't have that perspective. I wasn't a pilot or anything, but I can tell you from our point of view, it's something that it looked very unnatural and abnormal. And that's what got our curiosity to go investigate this. Now, normally because we would have had comms, you're damn right we'd have called it in. Report something suspicious. Maybe get some eyes on a helo, get a hold of their call signs and try to do them fly around, and they never did. And obviously we didn't have comms to do it, but they were more occupied with what was going on behind us. So when we trekked down and got around 150 to 200 meters from it, and this is an opening. By the way, there's no tactical advantage being in this situation because you don't have cover. It's jungle. You have concealment, but this kind of concealment with vegetation is not bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
So when we trekked up close, and we were attack column, so obviously you have points here, right, each Marine. So you have visuals of the sides, somebody has point, and somebody has the rear. And all of a sudden we were enveloped by this military force I still to this day don't know who they are. And
How close did you get
to the craft?
to the craft?
Roughly 200 meters, 150, 200.
Did you get to the bottom of the hill?
Yes.
So you could see, so you saw the top of it, and then you could see underneath of it.
And underneath of it had this platform that was on the ground that was separate from this craft hovering. And it was very weird to see, and I was like, okay, I don't know if that's kind of like a cement pad or something. I don't know if it was like a helo pad or anything like that.
Real quick, I want to break something up because this has a lot to do with what we've been talking about through Atlas. I just want to mention this real quick. Notice that he said that this thing was hovering, right? And then there's a platform. Now, the thing is this, though. I'm of the belief and the understanding, I don't think gravity exists. The reason why I say that is because the things that are out there, in our reality that are flying out there, they're defying the laws if there is such thing as gravity. So whenever I hear people or Dr. Stephen Greer, what's one of the guys that he's supposed to be a doctor, right? And he talks about these aircraft. I know when somebody's is it's in the know or when they're not in the know, or I know when they're a plant or just somebody who's controlled that position because of the way they say they either he doesn't know that gravity doesn't exist or he does it just not saying it. But obviously he's a part of the system. I don't know if you guys know who Dr. Stephen Greer is, and he's one of the guys they were talking about here earlier too. He's been interviewing everybody. I don't really trust the guy, Stephen Greer. I think he's just either Mossad or CIA or something. He claims to be a doctor, but he said he's been in the know since like the 80s. I guess he might know a few things, but I still think that he's covering something.
At first, but then started seeing how the material kind of looked very similar to what the craft was. It's like, well, that's separate. So you have something that's on the ground, stationary, and then you have something that's up top, and it's just rotating in a clockwise position. So right when we got close to it, at least 150, 200 meters out, then all of a sudden we were engaged, at least not in a hostile manner, at least not gunfire or firefight or anything like that. But the way that these guys moved was so fluid, it was so still, it was very, very, very smooth. And it kind of indicated to me, after thinking about it for several years, is that these guys have done it for a while because of how smooth this operation was. Mm-hmm. So when we were in a tactical column going towards the center of this thing, they actually came from the flanks, but it was more of a diagonal, like a corner of the room, so to speak, right? For them, at a tactical advantage, they have interlocking fields of fire on every single person, and they had a team of 8, right? And the gear that they had was black OTV vests. They had black camouflage utilities.
So what you're saying is there would have been no they were professionals.
Yes,
there would have been
yes.
no Mexican standoff where if they fired, they're shooting into their other squad. They had perfect angles.
Yes, they did.
To where both sides could engage you.
Yes. Team of 4, team of 4. So it was like a fire team element.
Without worrying about a blue on blue situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, with that being said, because as they approached us, you hear the safeties flip off. Now, your attention to detail, when you're seeing this kind of stuff, your sensors are very heightened, so you can pick up. I know you being a combat veteran, you know all about that. Your heightened sense of awareness is going through astronomical changes.
Hypervigilant.
Yes. So you can hear stuff a lot clearer. And that's where you kind of picked up the hum that this object was doing along with these guys flipping their safeties off, especially M4s. It's very distinct sound. Anybody in this room who's held M4s and has shot them, M16s, things like that, it's very distinct sound to flipping it off. So we kind of knew, and they started yelling at us. You know, they were like, you know, you're not supposed to fucking be here. What the fuck are you guys doing here? Who the fuck are you with? You know, so they knew they were using the kind of lingo that we were using too, especially in the military. So it made me think that at some point these guys actually were uniformed military at one point.
Any accents?
Not accents. It's just like American dialects, how you and I were talking. Very, you know, at one point they said they were going to smoke us. They could throw us out of a helicopter. It's very easy to get lost in the jungle out here. You know, they kept saying stuff like that. So after they enveloped us, they all pretty much got in line. They told us to put our weapons, so we all got in line as well. And we had our hands up. We had our weapons slung. And they're having two guys watch while there's a guy basically taking our magazines out of our vest. And they're throwing them on the deck and they're kicking them away so we don't have time to react. They also, at the same time, the first thing they did was obviously take our weapon and clear it. But they took the magazine out and they actually held it in a way to where they could pull a charging handle and collect the round and have it not hit the deck. So the way that these guys operated was very smooth. It's very calculated, very precise. You could tell they've done this a lot, or they've rehearsed it a lot. You know, especially combat operations, you're doing terrain model rehearsals, you're doing rehearsals whether you're clearing rooms, trying to figure all that kind of stuff out. These guys kind of did the same thing, I'm assuming, because of how smooth it was. And because you know as well as I do, you have new guys that join a unit and they're not that fresh. You know, they're very choppy because they have the basic understanding of either how to stack up and do room clearing. And the guys that have done it and been through combat deployments and all that, they're very kind of methodical, very smooth because they know what to expect. These new guys, it's not the same thing. You could tell these guys were seasoned. So as they did that, they actually, each Marine had two guys on them, plus one that was taking the stuff off of them. They actually knew where our military IDs were because in Marine Corps order, you have to have them in your left breast pocket.
So there were 15 of these guys, 3 on each Marine.
No. So they had other guys right here, and they had 3 that were just going through each Marine,
okay,
while other people were holding each Marine at gunpoint. And they're not like super close to us range-wise with, because if you get a muzzle close, I mean, it's easy to grab it and, kind of fend off, especially with a rifle. But these guys were off at a standoff distance that even if you try to move, they could smoke you.
One search team of 3 guys.
Yes.
And then the rest of the squad was aimed in on you. Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, they're not anywhere where they could actually, there was people behind us because obviously if they had to engage, they're going to hit one of their own guys probably. So it was more like they were kind of moving the same way through all of us, all 6 of us, taking our stuff, taking pictures of our military IDs, So they had like these devices that kind of look like a very thin, it looked like a smartphone modern day right now, because in 2009 it wasn't the case. I think the most high-tech thing they had at that time were maybe Blackberries, but they're bulky at that point with the ball, and then they had their flip phone razors and things like that. But these look like something you'd see today. And they were taking pictures of military IDs, and they had some other device that was like remind me of a BAT system. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Describe it.
It's like a biometrics tracking system. So what it does is when you come across with an insurgent, you can take pictures of their face, their retinas, fingerprints, something like that. But they were trying to scan our IDs with this thing, and it wasn't working. So they're kind of getting frustrated with it. So as this is going on,
did they collect biometrics from you?
No.
Okay.
No. They took pictures of us, but that may be enough. And then they took our IDs, because some people I talked to that are in the special operations community with that, they said, yeah, we have the ability to scan IDs, and it tells us everything about you. Military IDs, driver license, things like that. So it's very high speed stuff. And considering this was in 2009 compared to now, of course, they had this thing that they were using to load up stuff. It's very advanced physics, something hovering off the ground, not making any sound, but an audible hum, like a guitar amp or something that's like a transformer.
So it wasn't like, it didn't sound like a jet.
No.
It didn't sound like a helicopter.
Hell no.
There was no engine noise.
Nope.
Just a hum.
Just an audible hum. It's very creepy to see because it's not normal.
Was it like a bassy hum?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Like a guitar. Like if you were to unplug it, it wasn't the same pitch, but it was like the same kind of sound, same kind of noise that it emitted. And so as they're searching us, we're watching this thing happen. And that's when we started seeing trucks come from our left and go onto this platform. And they were up armored 350s. I know exactly what 350s are. They were kind of beefier trucks. They were matte black. When they were coming at us, and they go left. And I was glancing between what was going on in front of us with these guys, and then all of a sudden glancing over to what was going on behind them. And that's when I started seeing the key details of this thing. Like it had like a scale pattern on it, kind of like an octagonal, because the craft itself was like an octagonal shape where you could see points. Had a pyramid structure on top that was black, and you can see the shadowing of it as it rotated. But it was rotating very slow. And then it had like these vents on every single corner on the middle part of these on this the panels anyway. There was like a Vanta black. It was like a dark black that would like absorb light. Very weird. Very.
What do you mean by that? A dark black that would absorb light?
So, if you ever familiar with the BMW, they painted Vanta black. It was like a very super dark black. It's not like a reflective material at
The
all.
matte black?
Yeah, but very, very, very even darker than matte black.
Okay.
Like you can shine a light at it and it won't even illuminate.
Like the Batmobile.
Kind of something like that. But even it was like very dark. The only way I can describe it was like that Vanta black.
Okay.
And so as
when you mean absorb light, you're saying if I shine a laser on it, you might not even see the laser,
Correct.
or it would be very dull.
correct.
Okay.
Something like that. So we're watching these vehicles, right? These trucks. Now, the thing I would say on the front of them, because you know Humvees, the military has, they have the IR lights on the front near the headlights that you can drive at nighttime with your knots. So they had the same thing because they had the same kind of slits that had the IR lights. But they had weapon cases in the back of each truck bed. And, you know, you could store like a couple hundred weapons, maybe 100 weapons, maybe a platoon, a company size element. And it was the same Pelican casings that we would use to store stuff when they were transloading, you know. So very big cases on 2 of them in each truck bed. And then they had a shipping container thing. I mean, it looked like a shipping container, but smaller and half the size. And the thing that was different about this is it had a cylinder on the front of it that was towards the truck. It was like parallel to the ground, just a cylinder right on the top of this thing. And for years I thought, okay, you know, like there's got to be oxygen supply or like a vacuum sealing thing that you would, you know, because obviously I'm thinking it's drugs. I was like, okay, so this is a very advanced way to do that, just years of thinking of this. And come to find out, when I gave my speech in D.C. on that Saturday for the Disclosure Project with Dr. Greer, he's got a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, by the way. And this gentleman, I'm not going to give any detail. I know a little bit about him, but he works in some of these projects that are some very controversial facilities. He's aware of what was going on. After I gave my presentation of this, he confirmed, he says, no, he's like, I don't want to leave Michael hanging out there, but I was not expecting to come and talk to you about this. And he went explaining what the operations do, why they do it, and what they were using them for. And he says, there's not drugs that they're putting in these shipping containers. He says it's humans.
Human trafficking.
Yes. His own words. And, he, you know, of course. And he also wants to come forward, at least with him and 30 other people that are involved with that part of the work. But it was very disheartening to actually.
Oh, just real quick so I can touch on this. So some of the information I came across a long, long time ago, I never really touched this subject. Last time I talked about this subject was about 2015. The reason why I don't talk about this subject, what he just said right now, is because so according to what the information that's known in the back end, people who talk about this stuff is that governments of the world are involved in that. So I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if I should be saying here though that because of the algorithm, but 600K um, underage people go missing in America every year. It's not highly reported. You do with that information as you will, right? Now, there's a lot more to this conversation and this story that I can say about this, but what I'm noticing, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm noticing that a lot of the stuff that's going on with these men and women who are masked in the middle of the streets, asking people for the immigration status, they are part of something very, very sinister. So I wanted to bring this up to you guys, and actually this is biblical, by the way. It is in the Bible, it's in the book of Revelation. But the reason why I want to bring this up is because I think that society needs to know about it, and I think that the church needs to be aware of it because we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect our families, our kids, and everything like that. And this is not going to get any better, right? And this is part also something that I believe that from what the Bible shows us that the kingdom of darkness is something that they thrive on. So I'm gonna keep going with the video. Just want to give you guys those ideas real quick.
get that information relayed to me. Because here I'm thinking for years it's drugs and it's a much sinister thing. But it makes sense because they use natural disasters that people are going to be missing anyway.
Yep.
Scoop up people.
I mean, I've been covering human trafficking this year.
Right.
And that's, a lot of the human trafficking comes from third world countries in distress. You're in a third world area.
Yep.
In distress right after an earthquake would be, it's prime.
Yeah.
Prime time to do a human trafficking operation.
Right.
How big were the containers?
I would say probably 8 feet and 10 feet, 8 feet tall, 10 feet within.
So like maybe half a Connex box?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
And they were kind of like on the trailer that was underneath was kind of like a regular Humvee trailer that you would see kind of pull stuff, something like that.
How were they being lifted into the craft?
So they were driving onto this platform that was angled, so it hit, and it just raised up, and they were just driving on this ramp.
Oh,
But
truck
the whole
would go
thing,
up?
yeah, but the whole thing was a ramp,
Okay.
like a circular ramp. And I mean, obviously, I can't see what's on the other side of it, but I'm assuming because it's a circular pattern that it's going to be the same on the other side. Because they would drive onto this platform, and at that point, I saw all the doors open. 4 guys would come out, and then I'd going back to what we're facing here with these guys searching our stuff, asking us questions, taking our IDs, trying to intimidate the crap out of us. And so I can see the guys come out of the truck. And that was making me think too, like at a tactical advantage, we didn't have that. There's only 6 of us, basically trained infantry Marines. And there's these guys here that are, doing this operation and very skilled, very methodical, very calculated, very precise. And if there's 8 of them, and then all of a sudden every single truck has 4 of these guys, I know that it's not just these guys that are running the perimeter. They could have been 40 or 30 or 40 people.
Yeah.
Could have been a platoon-size element. And the fact that we have no concealment, we barely have any concealment, because if we were to run and bank off the sides here to go to our flanks, they could just engage us. There's nothing to hide behind.
Yeah.
Vegetation ain't going to stop bullets, but... So there's a lot of questions I have too, because it's, obviously if we would have engaged them, then the whole rest of the force behind us would know about it because they'd have heard the commotion.
Yep. How many containers do you estimate were put into the craft?
4, because I saw 4 trucks.
4 containers?
Yeah. And there could have been more, but at that point where we saw, we could have, because we stumbled onto this thing. We ruined their operation, so to speak, because we weren't allowed to see that.
Let's talk about the craft.
Okay.
How big was it?
300 feet is what I'm estimating, about a football field. And the reason why I say this is because we flew on CH-53 Super Stallions. I'm sure you're familiar with those, your time as a SEAL. They're roughly 100 feet, all right? So from nose to tail, if you lined up 3 of them, it'd fit 3 of them under this craft. Because I can see, especially the operation behind us, you kind of see them off in the distance, so you try to gauge, as a Marine, you're always trying to judge distance, you know what I mean? Because if you're having to engage, but lo and behold, we end up having a surprise right here happen with these guys. But that's how I know it was around 300 feet.
Okay. That's and it was circular.
Circular. It's like an octagon because it had like corners on it. That was like an octagon shape, but still circular.
Could you see, was it one smooth piece of metal?
No.
Was it panels?
Panels. Yep.
How were they, just describe more. Were there windows? Were there
There
openings?
were not windows, nothing I could see like that. It just had that Vanta black vent-looking things on each corner is all I saw with that. And it had like a octagonal scale pattern that went through it. It honestly reminded me kind of like a design for an F-22 Raptor.
Okay.
I like the top of it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of reminded me of because it would transition those colors. So I suspect, I've had people I've talked to about this to say, well, Lockheed Martin has reverse engineer stuff that's circular. Raytheon, they have triangular craft. And he said it might have been Lockheed because Lockheed also made the F-22.
Interesting.
Similar design concept. Now that I think about it, right, because at this time you're not really thinking about it. You're like, I'm more concerned with these guys and who the hell they are. So after we witnessed the last truck going on there, and we're still dealing with that. I got searched already, of course, and I'm just paying attention to what's going on. I'm making sure my guys are good too. And all of a sudden, the trucks, we never saw them again. They were not on that platform. There was like boxes and stuff that were on that platform. And so I'm assuming they either drove off on the other side or disappeared or where they went. I don't know. But all of a sudden, we noticed that this platform raises off the ground by itself. It doesn't make any noise, by the way. It doesn't disturb anything. It's
Before it started gaining elevation,
Yeah.
how high off the ground was this?
the actual craft.
Yes.
I would say probably 20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, good distance. And the platform rose up, but I would say like the platform was up several feet, right? Probably maybe 5-6 feet, because it was look, from the distance probably about half an inch.
I mean, I'm envisioning the way you're describing this, I'm envisioning an octagon
Yep.
rotating clockwise with a drop ramp similar to maybe something you would see on the back of a C-130, C-17, but circular.
But circular and separate. There's no cables. There's no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the ramp attached to the craft?
No.
So there was just an opening.
There was just an opening. Like the bottom part of the craft, was what I'm assuming, because that's where I saw it lift up and go into. It was like the
Okay.
bottom part. It was like the floor itself was like the platform, and they were just rolled up, right? But at the same time, the top part leveled a little bit and went down to meet with this. And as that happened, you start to see it rise up past the tree line. And it's not like a super fast and just rapid. It's just like kind of slow. As that's going on, the rotation has not changed. The audible hum has not changed. But
It's not like somebody hit the gas and you hear a different,
yeah, it's nothing like
different
that.
noise. It's
No,
just
constant.
okay.
Each point on that octagonal shape started to illuminate colors. Like, and it was just one color per point. It was red, it was green, it was yellow, and it was blue. Those are the only colors I saw, and it was rotating, right? As soon as it got to the top of the tree line, like cleared the trees, this thing shot off to the left. And to the left was the ocean, by the way. This was going west.
How far to the left was the ocean?
Probably a good mile and a half, maybe.
That's it?
Yeah, it
So
wasn't
you're
very-
right on the coastline. Okay.
Probably, I would say, it could be a mile and a half to 3 miles, I'd estimate, because I mean, that's just estimation. I don't really know, because it took us a little bit when we landed into the near Padang City, because we landed at the airstrip, and then we took like a several-minute flight going from southwest to like northeast part, roughly. So I'd say probably a couple miles to kind of estimate. And like I said, it didn't change pitches of noise or anything, and it just completely shot off. I mean, it's just like a blur that went left. Didn't make a sonic boom like you'd see a fighter jet when you see the pressure the way that happens. It didn't disturb any of the trees like what rotor wash would do on a helo or a jet flying the map of the earth and leaving exhaust and blowing you kind of see Top Gun movies when it cranks up on that.
propulsion.
Nothing. There were even coconuts that you could visibly see on these trees. None of them were disturbed.
No shit.
Yeah. And me, I like aircraft. That was my thing. I wanted to be a pilot, but that didn't happen. I wanted to fly the Harrier. And I know about aircraft. I know everything that we've got. I know everything about them. From a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. But obviously then being infantry was the next best thing. So it wasn't something I've never seen before, something I know that we didn't have, at least in the conventional wise, on top of the military force that was there.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a minute since I've done a Bub's Naturals commercial, but it has not been a minute since I've taken the best shit of my entire life. Actually, hey, these things are. If I wouldn't donate, then let's get it going.
We're all hooked up, ready to go. John Master's got his arm up, getting ready to hit me in the back. And then we see shuffling, and I'm only one of 12 guys that I jump with every time.
He filed a classified complaint under oath, and the Intelligence Community Inspector General said that he found the complaint urgent and credible.
A guy from the back shuffles his way to the front, and it's one of the escorts. He is unmistakable. I get a knock at the door. It's that same guy who cut me out of the door. Hands me a note. It said, thinking of you. He's like, hey, sorry about your loss, buddy.
I think it gives weight to a lot of the people that have come forward and talked about having direct first-hand experience.
To me, it just felt like somebody looking you dead in the eye and said, I can touch you anytime I want.
Well, when was the assassination attempt?
So we go inside. Meet another escort in there. Take us to this freight elevator. One of the guys looks at my dad and is saying to both of us, keep your head down, your eyes on the heels of the man in front of you, or you'll be shot. What could somebody threaten you with to make you turn your back on your own child?
So as that took off, we're all of a sudden ordered to face that slope that we came down. And like I said, it's not very high up. I mean, it's high enough to obscure everything to kind of go down in the valley. And so as we turn around, I'm like, fuck. They're going to do it. I think they were just going to, fucking rip us right there.
Yeah.
And
You're worried they're going to kill you.
yeah. Does that mean it's like...
Before we get to that,
Yeah.
when you saw this thing take off, I mean, do you have any estimation of speed? Have you seen anything? I mean, was it faster than anything you've seen before?
Yeah.
Was it a normal speed? How?
No, it was faster. It was the fastest thing I've ever seen. It was, I would say, probably 4,000 or 5,000 miles an hour. I mean, it was instantaneous. It was just like it left a blur.
Okay.
Like a jet screaming by going as fast as it possibly could, you can still make the shape of it and still lock your eyes onto it as it's going. There's no way in hell you could lock your eyes onto this thing as it's moving. That's how fast it was.
Okay.
And eyesight, something moving, your eyes are naturally going to pick up that motion. And this didn't do that. I mean, it was just like, it just left a very fast blur. And like I said, I've never seen anything like that. The way that it moved, the way that it didn't make any sound, completely, didn't change pitch of the hum or anything like that.
Did it go at an upward angle? Was it a straight line?
It just looked like a straight line from what I couldn't see. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It wasn't like it went up in the sky or anything. It was just like went over the trees and was gone.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, knowing aircraft and things like that, it just wasn't something normal. Something completely faster, something doesn't make any sound. I mean, radar signature, I have no idea. But there's theories that maybe the design of it could not reflect radar signals. I mean, I don't know how that go. I'm not, I don't work in that project or anything like that, but it's just something that's very odd to see. Very, very alarming.
Did the lights stay on as it took off?
Yep.
That,
But you couldn't even see the blurs of lights even. It was just this black blur that just left.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, it was creepy. It was fucking creepy to see.
Yeah.
And, of course, we're like dumbfounded because you've never seen anything like this. And this is like some Hollywood shit, Make the ships from Independence Day look like a joke, with how fast this thing was. So it was very, very, very weird to see that. And like I said, as we were ordered to turn towards the slope that we came down, and that's when I thought it was it. I thought they were going to smoke us, and they kept saying that, we can kill you right now. They're as this is going on, they're talking shit. They're looking at us. They're taking pictures. They're doing, everything that they're trying to do to clear us. So as we turn this, and all of a sudden, I see a sling pass over my head. I'm like, oh, fuck, they're going to strangle me. But that wasn't the case. They actually tightened it so well that when they placed it, and, it's crossbody, and obviously the buttstock of the rifle is up on the right shoulder, and the muzzle's kind of more towards your left. And they tightened the sling so well that if you try to get it off, it's going to struggle, right? And they started putting the magazines in, and they put all 6 of them in our vest, but they put it in a way that wasn't tactile. They put them like right side up where you can see the brass, right? Because brass to the grass is usually what we always train our Marines to do. So you just take it out, pop it in, boom, right? And they did in the case it'd be tactical. It wouldn't be a tactical advantage to do that. So by the time you get your weapon off, try to put a magazine in and charge it, you're already going to get smoked.
Yeah.
So
you were standing up when they did this?
Yes. Yep. And when I saw that sling come over, I mean, I was like, fuck, I thought they were going to strangle me.
Were they talking to you as they were doing this?
Yes. That's when they were saying they're going to, smoke us. They're going to kill us. They could shoot us, leave us here to die, stuff like that.
Why do you think they were doing? I mean, it sounds like they were taunting almost.
They were. And I think, my personal opinion is I think they really wanted to kill us. But if they made any, because they didn't have suppressors, they had M4, A4s. They had like the high-speed setup. They had actual ACOGs. They had the honeycombs on them. They had the PEC 16s, which is a step up from what we had. They had steel magazines. Their weapons were like they were brand new.
Do they have nods?
No. They had ball caps, though.
Ball caps?
Yep. They had no insignias. Nothing that would signify what their rank was. Nothing that would signify what branch if they were. There's nothing to identify. And, law enforcement agencies will typically try to be uniform with all black, so you can't really identify who they are specifically. And it's like how these guys were doing the same thing. Because I know in AOs, at least where you have friendlies, you want to identify who's what, because that's how you're going to coordinate between everybody, if who's friendly, who's not. So if you're having to do anything like airstrikes, close air support, CASEVACs, you know what to say and what they look like. Paint the picture for what you're getting into to provide other people that intel. And these guys were just uniform black, ball caps, and it's just, it's very obvious that these guys didn't want to be identified, but they had American dialects, they had American lingo similar to what Marines would use, or at least military. So that's why my suspicion is I think that these guys at one point were uniform military, and maybe they got swept into this program, whatever it is.
Could you see their faces?
I did. Three of the guys had facial hair, right? Kind of stubble. Some of them kind of not really long beards, but like an operator look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rest of the guys didn't. Some of them had kind of blonde hair, at least you can see from right here. Some of them had like black hair, and then just regular white complexion. Some of them had blue eyes, some of them had brown eyes, and I think one guy that I saw had, he was the one that was mainly focused in on us as we were getting searched. And you can see he had kind of like grayish blue eyes. So I don't know what military force. I mean, obviously it's not conventional.
Yeah.
Because, the question, if they ever come out and if they decide to ever do this and say, yeah, I was there with these guys, I would have a question. So the question would be, why did you let us go? Or what were you guys thinking? Or why were you guys doing this, for the matter? Because this isn't something that, me consciously, there's a lot of things, especially finding out that this happens to do with human trafficking. Morally, I could never do that.
Yeah.
That's a touchy subject for me.
They might not know.
Yeah. And that's just it, too. I mean, they could have. I mean, maybe the guys in the trucks were more of the darker side of things that were doing the hands-on, and these guys were securities. I mean, there's so many theories with this. I've seen some flack on Reddit about this. And you got all these armchair quarterbacks like, oh, I wouldn't have surrendered my weapon. Oh, yeah? So you get pulled over by a cop. And he's got his gun drawn in because, there's some people that's their interaction with police because they're known to be violent people. The cop is not going to take any chances. They're going to pull out their sidearm and they're going to approach the vehicle like this, tell you to get the fuck out, right? Are you going to chance anything if this guy is shooting you if he's holding you at gunpoint?
No.
No, you got kids, you got a wife, you got a bunch of stuff to live for. I know these Marines had the same thing. But it's always these people who are going to talk this shit who are not there. Because I know for a fact that I'm here today talking to you about this. I was here, talking to the Pentagon and talking to all these other people about this to testify to them and tell them what happened. And I'm glad that, I'd rather get the flack than to have to sit there and actually, whatever story they would have spun up to say that, maybe one Marine got PTSD or something, decided to kill his own squad and then kill himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, whatever they would have spun it to be. If these guys have this kind of technology and these resources, they can do anything.
Yeah.
They're above the law, clearly. So as they gave us our stuff back and we're going up this slope, they're still talking shit. They're still saying, we could kill you. Don't fucking look back or we're going to smoke you. So as soon as we went over the top and all of a sudden we didn't, they weren't pursuing us and we fucking hightailed it. We ran down this fucking slope, trying not to trip over shit, go to the LZ, and there were still helicopters flying. They were flying relatively low with the shipments that they had that were attached, and then they were landing, dropping the stuff off, and then they were taking off, right? And they were just coming and going back and forth. There was a gunnery sergeant there that was not in my unit. I think he was attached to the ship. It might have been kind of like their logistical support unit or whatever it is, because I know each ship has a logistical support for Marines, right? That are on the ship, either active security, whatever it is. There was a gunnery sergeant there, and he was like fucking pissed because we showed back up and we weren't supposed to. And then we had our weapons, so where were we conditioned for? We tried to play dumb, so obviously we kind of like set up a perimeter and then we adjusted ourselves. Some of my guys, they'd help us get our stuff unslung and then we'd load it back up and, act like everything was normal. But I can tell everybody's faces were like, what the fuck? Very, very concerning stuff. And here's the thing, though. If stuff is still going on to this day, which I'm sure it is, because if they're, come to find out, and I know you probably know this, human trafficking is the biggest revenue generator for these guys, for these organizations. Second's drugs, third is weapons. So if they're hitting all three, and obviously they're not going to want to give up their operations being known for that because it's illegal. It's not going to sit very well in the public eye. A lot of people have children. I personally don't have kids, but I know you as a dad would not fucking stand for that kind of shit. Yeah. Because then you have the thought in your head that it's going to be my kids are going to end up like this. That potentially could. It's not a very comfortable thing people realize. And having them known to see this happen, it sucks. And this is kind of more why I'm pressing towards getting the resolution done with this, to make the government aware of it. Because if that's going on, it's got to be stopped. That's some evil nature right there. And I can't believe that there are actually people participating in this. And if they know about it, fucking shame on them.
Yeah, you know, it's very interesting. There are two subjects that I really wanted to dive into this year. I'm fascinated with the UFO UAP genre,
right?
And I want to expose as much as possible the stuff about human trafficking and everything that goes into it. We've already started that, and to see these two arenas start to intertwine it's very alarming.
It tells you how much money is being spent. And it tells you that there's companies here that the government doesn't know about that are participating in this.
I'm gonna say something about what he just said about the two arenas. And I'm gonna bring you guys the verse. I'm gonna read it for you guys in a little bit. See, here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you guys something very interesting about what I understand about this, and just think about it, pray on this. This is the thing that happens is this. In the book of Revelation, it says that Babylon is in commerce, right? Babylon. When it talks about Babylon, is referring to the spiritual system. And in the passage, it talks about all the things that they are merchants of. And one of them, it says that is one of them says humans, and another version says human souls. So from my understanding, from what I've looked at, it looks like this doesn't typically have to be human in nature. That the governments of the world are doing some of this stuff, but I think what's happening is that they are actually in the cosmos. They're actually taking, humans, and they're doing as they please with them. And I think some of it could be, from people from this planet, but I think some of it could also be, otherworldly type of, harvesting something from here, there into the cosmos, planetary systems and stuff like that. I think that's highly possible, but that's based on. I'm gonna show you guys a verse in a little bit. I'll read it for you guys, but I just wanted to say what he's saying, right? So we have known at least since the 1960s about the different abductions when it comes to ETs and UFOs, and I think that there's a place where the governments of the world, from my understanding, is that and this information I found out maybe like 2010 is that when they had encounters back in the 1930s around Roswell, there was actually an understanding by the governments and also these particular entities that are doing this, that they can take humans as they will, and they've been doing it since. That's the understanding that I have. Now I'm not gonna get too much into that, but it's very I've known about this for such a long time, but now that a lot of information and whistleblowers are coming out and speaking about it, I think that's something that we need to consider and look at because it's kind of crazy. But anyway, let me go back to the video and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a bit.
Yeah. And it's not even, something that happens in the United States. It may, it definitely does. But to see the operation, because think about it, it's perfect cover. Because let's say if you're hiking somewhere out here and you see that unfold and you try to call the police, you try to call, federal, state, local agencies, or even the military for that matter, try to report this, are they going to take you serious?
No.
They wouldn't.
I mean, it's becoming more and more common as time goes on. But yeah, it's what sucks about this is we're in this time period where everybody knows. Not everybody, but it seems everybody that I know knows that the media is false. Yeah. It's fake. They don't report everything. They lie.
No, they don't.
But at the same time, a lot of people won't put any validation or trust in anything that hasn't been covered by
Right.
mainstream media. So we're in like this time period where there's a transition happening.
There is, and it's thanks to people like you. And I'm glad that there's people with me doing this too. That it's easy for people to sit there and try to judge what they would have done in these situations. And the bottom line is we have gotten a point in our life, and I don't mean us specifically, but I mean the rest of the world, where they get so disturbed with things, but they don't do anything about it. They want other people to do it. Oh, I'm unhappy with the situation. Well, fucking change it or help change it. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the word out there. We're trying to get the government, at least the right parts of the government, to do something about this. And, among other things that you see with corruption, for example, you talk about the media. Like I was a security, at least for my private security firm for the America's Frontline Doctors in Washington, D.C. And they came to talk to President Trump about COVID not being as serious as what the media is trying to say it is. They said that vaccinations are not something required to beat this. They were talking about natural immunity. They were talking about all the things that we already knew. Well, people were getting silenced for it. And I'm seeing these doctors, especially Dr. Simone Gold, so they try to wrap her up because she was part of the January 6th thing. But she's actually a really nice lady. But she's explained to us how everything worked because they took us out to dinner, to try to thank us. And it was very cool to network with these people. And then all of a sudden you go after the event and you start seeing the news articles pop up about these people. And it's completely defamation. It's completely stuff that's not even related, and it's one of those things that it sucks to see because their lives were ultimately ruined for speaking out about the truth. But here's the thing. There comes great risk to stuff. My life doesn't get lavish because of what I'm doing today and what I've been doing. It becomes hell. I've had numerous encounters with fucking helicopters hovering over my house. They were hovering over my dad's house. They get so low where they rattle the walls, scare the shit out of the animals that we've got. His dogs were going fucking crazy at that point. And he was concerned because he was home and he was like, I've never heard anything like that. So, I've taken videos of this too, but seeing Blackhawks, seeing regular black helicopters that don't even have insignias on them, nothing. And they're just sitting there. But the thing about it that is at least noticeable about this, and it's just kind of there's a hysterical factor to this, how much money they're fucking spending on this to happen, to try to either intimidate me or anybody else for that matter. There's some elected officials and even some government officials I know that are having the same thing happen to them because they've told me about it personally through our encrypted source of what we talk about. So they instructed me that anytime that something like this happens that I could record it, take pictures, because they'll see the timestamps of everything taken and let them know the time and they'll investigate it. Because they can have access to the FAA systems and among other systems that can actually relay where these people are going. They can listen into their comms, because they have to guide through the FAA air traffic, where they're going. I live by the airport in Denver. And the airspace there is restricted because they have airplanes that are flying, every directions to try to, passenger airliners or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's not a normal flight path for helicopters. That's what stuck out to me. They were doing it at my place of business where they'd fly over, they'd stop, and then, they would bank off. My dad's house, they get low, enough. It's just, it doesn't become glamorous by speaking about this.
And you have people maybe that you've met through when you testified in front of the Intelligence Committee that are helping you. They're telling you, hey, record this shit, timestamp it, let us know any information you can possibly get. Report it.
Because they said they'll look into it because they know, and several of them are having to deal with this personally.
Is this happening to any of the other whistleblowers that you know?
I know it happens to Dr. Greer all the time.
Okay.
Other whistleblowers, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's not something that, maybe they do notice, because you're hyper vigilant with what's going on. Because, with what we're doing, it's putting us in the spotlight, but it's also putting the fucking crosshairs onto us. And the only thing I'm thankful is coming public with this information, at least if something does happen. And I'm not going to rule that out. But if anything does happen, then it kind of proves what we're talking about to be true. And the reason being is because they would not be going through these measures to try to intimidate for no reason.
Yeah.
We're keeping people up at night because of what we're talking about, and that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, and I even told these government officials when I had my meetings, I'm like, first and foremost, you guys need to understand something. I am in the right state of mind to do this. I don't feel like harming myself. I don't feel like, because everybody makes the joke that Epstein didn't kill himself. No way in shape or form related to that, right? And same goes here. Like I have no means to harm myself. So if anything happens, it's not from me.
Well, thanks for saying that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that needs to be on record, and people need to understand that, because if something does, it's not because I turned a gun on myself or anything like this. Specifically, I'm going to talk about something. El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Was out in California. There was a colonel there that didn't even know that this was going on his base. But they were flying flights in that had drugs on them, and they were unloading it on his base, and he found out about it, so he went to question them. 2 days later, they find him dead.
Really?
Yep.
Is this on record anywhere?
Yes, it is. You can Google this information. Put Marine Corps Colonel suicide, El Toro. Okay. You can pull this out. Anybody of these viewers can do that too. The family thought it was very alarming because the circumstances. So they did a second opinion for an autopsy. And they said that there was extreme blunt force trauma to his head, which killed him. But then they had gunshot wounds. So there's a shotgun that were supposed to stage to look like a suicide. And so I'm glad that the family actually got the second opinion to say, no, it was blunt force trauma to the back of the head is what killed him, and they tried to make it look like a suicide. And this is a colonel, and the thing that sucks about this is the Marine Corps itself actually tried to use this as a tool to say, you know what, suicide awareness is such a big thing, and it happens with every rank, and they were using this guy for this purpose. But then all of a sudden you start delving into this information and seeing that, the reports that he was making about these.
I'm gonna give it to you guys what he just said about this person. I googled it right now, and it does say his Marine Corps Colonel James E. Sabo was found dead January 22nd of 1991 in the backyard of his home at Marine Corps Air Station in El Toro, California. The official cause of death was ruled a unaliving from a shotgun wound to the place close to the hair. Something I gotta be careful what I say on here. So he's right about what he's saying on this. I just looked it up right now.
Illegal flights coming in, and they were unloading drugs. I mean, it clearly, these guys, it doesn't matter what rank you are, it doesn't matter what position in government you have, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. If you're going against what they're exposing what they're doing, they're going to get you. So if something does happen, I'm just putting it out there that it's not from my own doing. I don't fucking piss anybody up. Maybe in the business world to a degree, but it's not enough for them to sit there and do something like that. And I'm glad that I have a private security firm where I've got some guys who look out for my best interests, and they know what I'm doing. So they've got my back, realistically speaking. And, and that's the thing too, is any other whistleblowers who, because I urge other people to come out. If they're needing protection on the way, I'll help with that. I'll orchestrate. But the other thing is coming out in the fashion that we did was the best, because now the right people in the government know. So it's almost like having a pit bull that's one to rip you to fucking shreds, but you have this fence that's between you and this pit bull. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the government's going to be that fence, and along with the spotlight that this put me in.
Yeah.
Because it's unsettling to sit there and see these helicopters, man. It's just, it's hysterical. You sit there and wave them, but it's like, keep wasting your fucking money.
Let's talk about the debrief that happened afterwards.
Yes.
What happened when you got back to your command?
So when we got back onto the ship, we ended up returning our weapons to the armory, went to our berthing, put our gear away, went back to the flight deck. There was this admiral there. I'd never seen him before. I don't know who he is. But it was just very out of place. He gave a debrief saying, hey, this was good that you guys are doing for these people, which I agree with. But I have no idea who he was. But, I've been on 6 ships, did several humanitarian operations, and not once have I ever seen an admiral on any of them. And this was minor compared to the one in 2011 we did with Fukushima and that natural disaster. Never seen an admiral with that, right? So it's just very out of place. So we went to, after we concluded this operation, we ended up docking in Subic Bay for some liberty. It was just like 4 days. So the people that we encountered during that event didn't even bother to take my camera or anything. It was in my dump pouch, but it was small enough, so I don't know why they wouldn't have searched it, but they missed it, right? So here I am the whole time thinking, like, fucking A, I've got something. I'm not fucking crazy, and neither of us are crazy. Like, we've got something that actually backs up if we were to tell anybody about this, and we can show them pictures of it off of a camera and not something like a computer screen where they can doctor it. Well, I spoke too soon, because when we ended up going out that first day, we came back to report back to the ship, and I saw my camera on my rack. And the memory card was out of it, and it was a big memory card. And the battery was out of it. And I just see the camera sitting. I'm like, what the fuck? So I checked my locker. It was secure because that's where I had it. And I had some stuff on top of the camera in there, in my locker that were on top of the camera. And I had another battery in there. So I took that battery and I put it in there and it wouldn't even turn the fuck on. And I had some people reach out to me that said, if you had that camera still to this day, that they could do some data retrieval and maybe able to pick it up. I'm like, but I don't have that camera. I tossed it because the fact that it wouldn't even turn on, it wouldn't do anything. I'm like, fuck, it's just a paperweight. And of course, 2009, you're not thinking of anything with forensics, where they could do something. There was people actually willing to do that, which is great. So somewhere out there, somebody's got this footage. Somebody's got that tape because there's some reason why they took it. And fun fact is that the other 5 Marines that were with me, they had their phones taken.
Did you look at the pictures before? Did you have a chance
I know
to
I
look
took
at the
pictures and videos of it because I saw the record thing and I actually can snap the photos and you can see like it blink. That's the only way to describe it. So I knew for a fact.
But you didn't go back and review them? Okay.
No. Nope.
Why not?
One, I didn't see it, want anybody to see.
Okay.
Just for that reason. It was just something to keep, if anybody doesn't know about it, then if I start telling people, then obviously there's things that may happen. And of course it did happen regardless, because as soon as we're out in town, all these people, I don't know who it was who did this, by the way, but they didn't even cut my lock. They popped it off somehow because my lock was still intact. So these guys are obviously know how to do it, and I don't know who it was, but all of a sudden the other Marines had their stuff taken too. And anybody in the platoon, they didn't have any of their stuff touched. It was only us that were there.
Did they take anything else?
No. Nope. So after we get done with that, we end up going back to Okinawa, right? And this was a regular normal day. It's probably fast forward a month after we end up getting back. All of a sudden, a duty Marine knocks on my door and says, "You need to report up to the CP." I'm like, roger that. So I get my cover, run downstairs, run over, and there's nobody there. I'm like, well, this is fucking weird. And all of a sudden, I go inside, and there's this big opening in his office, and then they have these little offices that have these little doors that you can walk into. So all of a sudden, I'm greeted by somebody in Air Force dress blues, and he didn't have a cover on, but he had salt and pepper hair, white complexion, older gentleman. He didn't have a name tag on his uniform, which, come to find out, Air Force regulation states that you have to have a name tag on your uniforms. Marine Corps, we don't do that unless it's our camouflage or if you're a drill instructor or some kind of instructor or some sort of billet that requires you to do that. So he calls me over, and I go over, give him the proper greeting of the day, and then he tells me, go ahead and sit down over here in this office. So I sit down, and he doesn't even bother to sit down. He just says,
you, though? Wasn't the other 5 Marines?
No,
with
they
him?
end up having the same thing happen, but this guy did it separately.
It's all individual?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't all together. So he told us, again, with what you guys saw, you're not allowed to report this. You're not allowed to talk about it to your family, not to your chain of command. I don't care if a general even asks you. You can go to prison for this. You could be executed. And if you want to chance that, by all means, but you need to sign this. So I take the paper and I look at it, and it's a non-disclosure agreement. The only 2 things I can recall to this day is that it said TSSCI and it said Indonesia. There's the only things I could recall. But I skimmed through it and I fucking signed it because here I am thinking, okay, we're just going to forget about this whole fucking ordeal. And yet this is getting thrown in our face, and here's somebody threatening our fucking lives here with, imprisonment, death, things like that, if we're to talk about this.
Did you ask him any questions?
I tried to ask him who he was, and he didn't say anything. There's some speculation going on about this because people who know about this, whether it's other whistleblowers and other people have came forward previously, have said that these guys have the ability to impersonate or even play off as their military officials or anybody for that matter in the government to try to extract information to see what you know. So I'm not, because it's odd that he didn't have a name tag. He had the only thing I can tell is that he had a stack of ribbons. Air Force gives ribbons and medals for just about anything, but he had silver jump wings is the only thing I can recall. So other people I've talked to in the military community are still active, just trying to get information. And now they know because I've came out. They were saying that if it was an Air Force officer, that has to do with someone Air Force intelligence, because a lot of them had jump wings, and that's kind of the thing that they like to do. He says it's because he didn't have any pilot wings or nothing that would signify he was a pilot. It was just those silver jump wings. Yeah. Just with the parachute, and they had the wreath that come up like this. That's the only thing. And obviously he had the silver oak leaves on his shoulders. But so after dealing with that, it's like, okay, signed it. I'm like, great, just fucking leave it behind. The rest of my career, don't tell anybody about it. Didn't tell my family. I told my dad before I ended up getting out of active duty and going reserves. I said, there's something I got to tell you. And he even told me this, when I started coming out publicly about it, and after I had gotten through the right part of the government to go ahead and proceed with this. And now he understands what I was trying to tell him, because I said, just have to wait for the right time to do this, because I don't know. I'm kind of freaked out, something. And at that point, 2017, is when I met Dr. Greer, and then fast forward to recently in April, making this happen with the government and telling them and testifying and briefing them what's going on, So the flack that I'm seeing with this is, there was a guy, apparently it was a Marine that came out with Dr. Greer that was like more than 10 years ago. I think his name was Joshua or something like that. And he was a Stinger operator, so he was like an anti-air gunner, if you want to call it that. I don't know the MOS. But apparently he was in South America and he witnessed a crash retrieval. And so he stated the same thing. This paramilitary organization kind of looked very similar. Obviously, this was in the 90s, so they didn't look that dissimilar to what I saw. But he talked to a paramilitary organization. He talked about the noise that this craft made that he saw that was shot down, had a hole in it. So it was a guitar amp, because that's the only way to describe it. If it's reverse engineered, it's going to mimic the same kind of technology that these actual crafts have, right? This paramilitary organization, well, yes, that's how they operate. They're not going to be identified in any kind of way. It's going to be a generic black uniforms and gear. So, of course, and, everybody's like, oh, at least the Reddit that I'm seeing, and I said, oh, the Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Okay, that's another thing. And it probably wasn't the same guy, but the same method. There's only one word that comes to that. It's called corroboration. Yeah. And it's not the first time that this guy's saying it. It's not the first time that other people have said this. But the thing is, people only pay attention to them when stuff's thrown in their face, such as what I'm doing and what these other people are doing. There's going to be people who are going to come out after me who are going to talk about the same thing. I know I'm not the only one. And maybe I can get one of my Marines, that were there to actually come forward, and maybe, ideally it'd be all of them, but I know how this goes. And one guy responded when I had these government officials and Dr. Greer trying to bring one of them forward, and he said absolutely not. He sent a text message saying it's not worth the risk to my family, my life, my career, because he's still in the military. He's a commissioned officer now. And he was very repetitive about that, and he says, don't ever ask me to do this shit again, and you need to get the fuck out of whatever you're in. But it's the response that when I asked him to do this, and that's what he responded to, what else could it be? Yeah. So in a sense, that kind of corroborates it, but it corroborates the seriousness of how they're in fear of their life. Yeah. The other guy, I didn't hear from anything. And even taking my social media down, because after I started coming forward, I just don't want people blowing up my fucking inboxes, trying to ask me details or questions or try to get interviews. I'm not about that. I'm not, the fact that our lives are kind of coming to hell to a degree because of being pursued with these helicopters and things like that. There's other ramifications that may happen that I'm not aware of, but you know what? There's a risk to things, and that's how this is going to happen. And if that's what's chosen, then I just got to figure out how to mitigate that as well.
Well, let's talk about, we had spoken offline a little earlier about all the media that's reached out. I know you had an article in the Daily Mail.
Daily Mail, and then obviously the other facets of related Daily Mail published this. Well, they misconstrued a lot of that, and then they end up going in from David Grush to bashing Dr. Greer about it. So it was something that they trying to use to get people's attention, and they go into this fucking narrative. I've had News Nation, I've had CNN, I've had MSNBC that reached out through LinkedIn, through other emails, because my email gets blasted all over the place these days. And I've got 4 emails, so I got the fucking shitty one I hand out to people because I don't want to get spammed through my business emails, because that's money that's sitting on a table if need be. And I decline every single one of them because I know that they're going to push this false narrative. The false narratives that they're evil ETs, and this is what David Grush is pushing now, saying that, they're malevolent and he's seen ETs die, or he's heard ETs kill people and things like that. Well, first and foremost, if there is a species of extraterrestrial that's out there, and they happen to be fucking malevolent, it's not wise to shoot their shit down or kill any of them, because guess what? They're highly advanced. Yeah. If they can make this kind of stuff, imagine what they can do if they weaponize it. So it's something that, this needs to stop, because all it's doing is just it's just portraying fear out to people. Yeah. They did this with COVID. You see the response of that. People are still living this way, living like COVID exists to this day, which it probably does, but it's not nearly damaging
wasn't
as
as-
what people are saying.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as was hyped up to
No,
be.
it wasn't. And you still have people fucking afraid of their lives. And this is the thing that is sad to see that. So this whole, now that people are thinking about this going on, now that all of a sudden worst case is going to happen. It's just this whole fear being portrayed in the media to try to scare the shit out of people, either to get ratings or try to get people tuned in their networks is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's more, it's more of a personal game for them because they get money off of views. So
Now that you've set the record straight, do you think you'll go on any of these media outlets?
no,
No?
I'm not looking to
blame
get
you.
fucking famous from this dude.
Yeah.
I just want to get this information out. This ain't gonna, I've had people try to approach me with book deals and shit like that. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. This has nothing to do with trying to get money. This is trying to make sure that, and this is, I'm not trying to convince the public here. And I'm getting that on record too. This isn't trying to convince the fucking public that this is real. I'm trying to convince the government, and thankfully they are convinced enough to actually do something about it. That's my main objective with this.
Good
because
for you.
when they come out and they start talking about the bills that they're talking about, legislations, because of people like me standing up, among with other whistleblowers coming out and talking about the same kind of corroboration, that there's man-made stuff going on, that there's nefarious activities going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about, and they're making money illegally, and they're murdering or killing people doing it.
I'm glad you're doing it.
I'm glad too, man.
Takes a
And
lot of
it
courage.
scares the shit out of me. I wake up every day unsure like what the fuck's gonna happen, but that's why you had to take it day by day. And at the end of the day, there's people looking out for me, which is great, in the government and spiritually as well.
Good.
And that's where I'm gonna thrive with this, because guess what? If they can silence me, but they can't silence the fucking truth. And they've been trying to silence the truth for far too long. And it needs to stop. And there's anybody, whistleblowers too, this is the thing I'm gonna urge. Anybody who has any information with this, whether they've witnessed similar things with this, whether, you're in the opposite spectrum. If you're anybody who's working in these programs, I know there's people who are listening to your show about this, by the way, who are probably on that side of the coin. Fucking man up and come the fuck out.
Yeah.
You got to stop the bullshit. And anybody who knows about this, well, guess what? If you know the truth and you're not revealing it, then you're complicit to it too. So I'm urging, get a hold of me. I mean, I'll throw my email if you can put that link in. And most of all, get a hold of Dr. Greer.
I'll put that link in there.
Okay. But yeah, Dr. Greer, I mean, he's been a good resource, and people need to understand, just like you understand with this. He is basically a sounding board for all of us who have coming forward. And all he's doing is relaying information that he knows from people. He's got a strict vetting process with this. I know people are going to attest to that as whistleblowers. The fact is, he's not just going to take anybody's word because, yeah, somebody said something, right?
I talked to him. I just interviewed him,
Right.
as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked him, how did he decipher who the bullshitters are from the real ones? And we went into that because I think that's extremely important.
Yes, it is. And it's
the
not,
vetting
he's just not taking anybody's word for it.
Yeah.
I mean, he asked me repeatedly, in law enforcement especially, the tactics they use is they ask the similar questions, and especially the meeting I had with the Pentagon and all these other agencies, it's like they ask the same thing because they do interrogations on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, my story is not going to fucking change. The way that I'm doing details is not going to change. My simple task with this is just to tell people what happened.
Good.
That's it. I'm not trying to gain profit. I don't want to be fucking famous. The only thing if I'm going to be famous for this, the only thing I want to be famous for is, oh, that's the guy that fucking stood up and wasn't afraid to do it. And he got the truth out there.
Good for you.
If I can fucking live with that, perfect by all means.
Well, Michael, I know it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, man, and I commend you for it, and it's an honor to have you in here.
Well, Sean, thank you, man. And what you're doing on your networks, your podcasts, your YouTube, I mean, you have a big audience. And I hope, I got people trying to poke holes. Go for it. I don't give a fuck what they think. They weren't fucking there with me. They weren't there with my Marines. They want to talk shit. Go for it.
I got one last question.
Yeah.
If you could say anything to the other 5 Marines that were on the ground with you that day, because they might be watching, what would you say to them?
Don't fucking leave me hanging, guys. Don't leave me hanging. We're family. We're fucking brothers. We went through this shit. And I get that you got family. I get that you got kids. I got, moving on. But fuck, man. I mean, you see what I'm trying to do with this. And I'm just trying to get the truth. I hope that they do. And if I can get them to come out and at least understand that, there may be some aspects that are uncomfortable, with what I'm having to deal with, but it's just the reality of things. It's not pretty. But if you got the fucking balls to do it, I don't have kids, me, I still got a lot to lose at the end of the day. And I know they do too. But the fact is, I'm just sick and tired of people bitching about things and not doing anything about it.
Me too.
And it's all a bunch of talk in this fucking world. It's all a bunch of talk. That's all I see on social media. That's why I'm glad I'm on.
All right, I think that's as far as we're gonna go with the video. Very good video. I saw this about a year ago, some time ago. I saw this video. I don't remember most of the cussing he was gonna do in here either. Sorry guys, I know this is supposed to be a Christian channel. Just a man. I was still looking at your message on here. Let me know if you'd like to come up. If you can, if you want to, for a second. But first, let me give a little monologue right here about a lot of things that we can be say about this stuff that we're looking at right now. But let me get this right. Let me get this out of here first. I think my sound's a little bit funny also. Ah, yeah, I think my sound is a little bit weird. Let me know if you guys say if my sound is weird. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I have another one. Let me see. Give me a second. Okay, I'm gonna bring you up right now. I know that you just requested. I'm gonna bring you up right now. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah. How are you doing this evening, man?
I'm doing well. I'm listening to the story there, and I had one too,
Oh
and
really?
it was over in Okinawa too, but it wasn't so much okay where I seen that stuff. I just seen other stuff,
Hmm.
and I was 17 years old when I got sent over there. I was in Second Battalion, Ninth Marine, Third Marine Division, and anyway. I had had things happen to me in boot camp. They beat the piss out of me to where I almost died, but
Hmm.
I made it. Got it through boot camp. Got over into Okinawa, and that was another one. I finally proved it, and I'm on I got VA disability now from it, but it took 50 years. But yeah, I was over there, and I seen where. Well, I kind of lost it at that point because they screwed up my head. They wouldn't even do any kind of what do you call it when they came up with the thing where they could scan your brain. They won't do it, and they said, look, you're still, well, they had just given me my 100%, and it's like, you don't know it, you don't need it, you don't need to know what's in there, you're getting 100%. So that's pretty much the way they treated me. But at one point, when they come up, they let me out, they put me out actually. So they called me up to the officer, and I was in Okinawa up in Camp Schwab. So I got
Okay.
up to Camp Schwab, and they took me because now these boys were just coming back from Vietnam. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And they made them drill instructors. That's what happened over there when I was in boot camp in San Diego. Because I did my MCRD. I went to MCRD in San Diego, and they beat the hell out of me to where I had blood coming in my eyes, ears, nose, mouth, everywhere. And they made me just and then they just gave me a mop to mop up my blood. And this other dude came in, right, the other kid, and he was over in 1103. And this is how I proved it. Because they went in, and he came over saying that my drill instructors were easier. So they bring him after that because they got me into the office and they all started pounding me with their hands. Well, anyway, that's a different story, but that's what screwed me up. But then when I got over into Okinawa, they had a thing. I was there, and they took me from. I went into weapons platoon, but they put me over into surveillance, target acquisition, scout, sniper, and so we were waiting. Me and my buddy Bresman, and they took us up there, and they were doing the thing with the what do you call it, the Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Well, that was back in 1975. So all these guys they're bringing all of that equipment they were bringing back from Vietnam, and it was it had Agent Orange, but we didn't know that. Nobody told us that. So anyway, they put us up there in these little like not the regular zoot suits, but something you'd use like if you were in a processing plant. And so me and him did that for 3 weeks, on and off, fire watch, because they were up in the northern training area there out of Camp Schwab. But a long story going short, they did like what they had a battalion move, they called it, right? So what they did at first Amtrak was up above us, right? So they go up there, they tell everything's got to go. So they hooked these two Amtraks behind two other ones because they were red line, took them out there. Well, when they got past the break, okay, because in Okinawa you got like about a 300 yards or something like that, and then you can do it. It's about 26 feet of water. But once you get past that break, it goes 300 feet straight down.
Oh.
So anyway, they got to cross that break, and when they did, they killed 14 of them, 14
Mm.
young kids. So I raised hell about that, and I told them, but this is how much power they have, and this is true, and I could prove it. I got all the paperwork. But they called me up to the office with my company commander because I requested mass to the president of the United States because, of course, he's our commander in chief. They said, well, "You're never going to see him." I said, "I understand that, but I want to get as high as I can." So they pulled me in the office, and this is no shit. The general was there, and then he had the sergeant major of the Marine Corps was there, not a major in the Marine Corps. No, the sergeant major of the Marine Corps was there, and my company commander.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm standing there, and I'm barely turning 18 years old. They said they took me in there and they handed me a piece of paper, and they said, "You're going to sign this." And my company commander looked at me. I said, "Well, he came over and looked at it, and he goes, 'Don't sign that.'" But they looked over, and the general and the other one, the sergeant major in the Marine Corps, said, "You're going to sign it or you're going to disappear." He goes,
Mm.
"You'll come over here." He goes, "You're not going home." I said, "What?"
Wow.
So right away, my company commander said, "No, Jeff." He goes, "Look, man, I'll train you personally and all that." I said, "Did you just hear what this man told me?" You know what I mean? If I don't
Mm.
sign this paper, he's going to make me disappear, and he damn sure could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what they do and the things that go on in there, you know what I mean? Because it took me, I worked hard my whole life, you know what I mean? But I've been
Yeah.
disabled since then, since actually boot camp, because
Yeah.
they come over the drill instructors and shook my hand. And even after that, me put me over and get, because they said I took a drink of water. So they put me in a little, well, not a little, it was like a round circle thing.
Yeah.
And what they did back then is they had the mud in there, but they got the ground up seashells and they
Yeah.
threw it in there. That was your punishment. So they had me out there squirming around like a worm with my neck barely up to the top of the mud. I spent 3 hours in that thing going around like a little
Mm.
fish, just
Right. Right.
cutting the shit out of me.
How long were
You
you in the
know,
armed forces for?
excuse me.
How long were you in the armed forces for?
Well,
How
that's
long?
when they put me out. Is when I got over there. So it was over about 18 months. But once
Oh.
I seen that, and I was mad.
Mm.
And when I got it, they got me up into the general's office. He threw me out. They put me back over there, and then so I ended up like being what do you call it? Yeah, I was in Camp Schwab, but at the very bottom of it. So
Yeah.
from the bottom of it to the ocean wasn't that far. You know what I mean? They had a little line of some foliage in there, but from there on, it was ocean. So they
Yeah.
put me and my buddy Bresman on army watch every time a typhoon would come. And this is how they got me, okay? Because 5 times, this is true, 5 typhoons came in the time that I was there in Okinawa. But what they would do is they'd bring you in and tell you, okay, you got to meet the officer of the day and the NCO of the day, so you couldn't challenge them. See what I'm saying? So if they came off the hill and you were guarding the armory and everybody else is in with the typhoon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had your red line. If you
Right.
come out, it's ID on the ground, 10 steps back, spread eagle on the ground if you catch anybody over there because you're
Right. Right.
guarding the armory.
Yeah. Let me
So
ask you a
after
quick
the
question about this. How
yeah,
how much of the video did you watch? How much of it did you watch?
I was watching a lot of it, and you know what? Um, yeah, I came out good. You know what I mean? But I can understand the man and what he's saying.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's a lot more precarious stuff that goes in there than anybody could ever imagine.
Right. Right.
Actually,
Right.
I don't know if you ever heard or go back into the 1970s. It would have been 75 that they had unalived one of the Marines there. I watched that. They they unalived him with bugle sticks, and they had 7 other Marines there that put him down. Then after that, over in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, about 2 or 3 weeks after that, they marched in a whole platoon, and down in
Mm.
there it's all swamp. So they marched them into the swamp. They lost 36 young men.
Right.
Went straight
So
down into the
there's a
quicksand.
lot of things that happen in the armed forces. Obviously, as Americans, we like to show them respect and everything. Obviously, we gotta show them love. I think a lot of people that get into the armed forces, they don't quite fully understand what they're getting into. They find themselves in peculiar situations sometimes. So that's one of the things. When it comes to the video itself, do you think that what do you perceive about the idea that they are clandestine, like um what do you call it,
Well,
organizations that are involved in certain things. What do you think about that?
oh, I totally believe it. I've seen things too that I can't explain. You know what I mean? But do they have the technology? I believe they do. I
Right.
believe they got the technology from Area 51. I mean, it was all there. They knew there was a crash. And when that happened, they couldn't get there fast enough. But it wasn't fast enough to where they hadn't already put it into the local newspaper.
Right.
You know what I mean? That they had
Yeah.
found it, and the guy's farm that it was on actually had pieces of it. And they
Right.
did the same thing. They went in and got it. So I believe that they take this Area 51 was more so going in there and dismantling, like he said, going backwards on it to come up with it. Think about it with the technology we had up until that point. Okay, did we have anything even close to what we have today? So
Yeah.
that has to come from somewhere, and it wasn't anybody in physics. Because I watch a guy on here, and he can explain some, but he even says we don't know. That's just our hypothesis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to be able to, and it wasn't for it wasn't shortly after they came up with the microwave and all kinds of other different stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I believe that yeah, they absolutely they did well. The same thing when what was his name? Oliver North. He was taking and running the guns down into the Sandinistas. Excuse me, the Fufus down to the Sandinistas. You
Right.
know what I mean? They do a lot of stuff that we don't know. But I'll tell you what they did do. Because when my wife, I knew some other stuff too, and I ain't speaking on that. But when I got married to my wife, and we lived up in Leadville, Colorado, right, which is like 6 feet of snow. And I told my wife when she married me, I said, "Look, honey, they're still sending people over there. They've been watching me since I got out." And she's like, "Oh yeah," she never believed it. Till one day we were down on 17th Street there in Leadville. They had the apartments there, and it was three. There was like three levels up, or 3 levels up. And we were on the second level, and I told her, "Honey, come here." So she came over there, and I said, "What?" She goes, "What?" And I said, "Well, take a look out the window." So she looked out the window. I said, "You ever see somebody running around? This guy's been going around, right? You've seen him. Now just watch him. He'll go around, come right back around." And he's looking right up at me. And he's got the platform shoes in Leadville, Colorado. No,
Mm.
that doesn't work well on the ice.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
looked at him, and he was looking right up at me. And I said, "Do you see what I'm talking about now?"
Mm.
They've watched me ever since.
Wow.
They keep tabs on me like you couldn't believe. I said things in there that they didn't want to hear
Yeah. Right.
because
Exactly.
I was actually in there, and they made me a company runner after that. They tried to get me blown into the ocean, 5 different typhoons I was out there, but this is how they got me out
Right.
because on the fifth one, they knew the typhoon was coming in, but it didn't come in until after one. The warning didn't come in until after 1 o'clock, and I told you that's when you go in and meet the officer day and the NCO of the day, right? So
Yeah.
you can't challenge them. So I told my buddy Bresman, I said, "This is the way it is, bro. As soon as you see that Jeep pull up over there, I seen him pull up, and it was the colonel. It was the colonel. He pulled up, and he come around, but he was in like you know what I mean. You could do. He just threw himself together. He had to go down. He had to have to check on us. So anyway, he came down. I seen him go through the window, and I told Bresman, "Come over here, man. I'm gonna catch him. Come out." He goes, "What?" I said, "This is 5 times we've been out here, bro. Me and you."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every typhoon that came through, they're trying to get us. I don't know so much about you, but they're trying to get me. And so
Mhm.
when he came out, I let him come out, and he come out on the pad on the end of the where he came out of the office and back, and I let him come around just enough where I come across. Well, now we're locked and loaded because you know what I mean. The
Yeah.
typhoon's in full blaze. So
Right.
he come around. I caught him halfway off, and I made sure there was enough 10 feet step or the 10 feet back. He was going to be in the mud.
Right. Right.
So he come
Eh,
around and I challenged him. I said, "Hey, ID on the ground, 10 steps back, spread eagle on the ground."
Yeah. Let
He
me
looked
ask
at
you a
me and he goes,
question real
"You know
quick
what?"
about. Let me ask you a question also about this.
Yeah.
You've heard about the three-eye atlas, anomaly in the solar system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that? How do you perceive that there's some anomaly going on over there they're talking about?
Well, I can believe there's a lot of things that we don't know, truly. Well, look, truthfully, I'm a Christian. Well, I'm a follower of Christ. And everybody said, "No, you can believe in all this stuff." But look, this is the stuff that I've went through.
Mhm.
Does that negate that I love God? No, it is. But, the Bible's
Yeah.
a little bitty book in a great big universe. And so I've seen other things. Like I said, I've seen UFOs. You know what I mean? I watched it, and I bet you I can pull it up on the phone and send it to you. when I
Mm-hmm.
just before I left to come up here to, cause I'm in Oregon now, but I was down in Colorado up in Penrose. That's where my sister was, and I came up from Florida anyway. I stayed with her for 2 weeks. Well, like you couldn't smoke tobacco in her house. So I'd go out to this little pad on the back side of it. Well, there it's all fields. You know what I mean? You got the mountains around you. You got the Arkansas River coming down through there. But
Yeah.
where Penrose is, it's all flat up in there. But you're not far from NORAD. You know what I
Really?
mean? It's just a
Yeah.
hop, skip, and a jump if you're in an
Oh
airplane.
wow.
But so I went out and I was smoking a cigarette and I looked and there's these five ships like he was talking about.
Yeah.
There were five of these ships. I got pictures of it. My sister even came out and went, "Whoa!" She watched us for about 45 minutes. They didn't leave. They were actually over where Supermax is.
Yeah.
You know Supermax, where Noriega and all of them are at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not too far down from where we were at because you just take that road and you take it up through there. You'll be in Colorado Springs when you come out of the canyon there. You're in Penrose.
Mm.
So anyway, I went out and I'm looking and I'm watching them, and they're doing this. He was talking about it, the green, red, all the lights. They all match, and I do have pictures. I actually have
Oh,
what do you call it? I filmed it. But
right.
when
Right.
my sister came out, I goes, look at these things, and they were systematically doing something.
Right.
You know what I mean? One of them was actually over the prison, over Supermax, and I'm thinking, no, you can't do that.
Mm.
That's restricted airspace
Yeah.
because that's the number one criminals in all of America, well, some from around the world.
Yeah.
But no, nobody ever came and challenged them. And so I watched this for 5 days or 5 evenings in a row. I
Oh
went out and I
wow.
watched him. This is another truth. You're not going to believe it. I never even think I'm crazy, but no, I was standing there on the last one, and but he was, most of them were like down. Oh, it'd be my like 3 miles down, 3 miles down. You know what I mean? Some of them weren't even that far. They were only more like a mile. But all of that land around there is owned by Fort Carson. You know what I mean? It's owned by the government.
Yeah.
So I'm watching they're working their way in, they're working, but they were a little further off. But this one, he was actually low. You know what I mean? And I come out and I'm like, I said, I'm filming all this. I said, my God, what is this stuff? So the last one, me being me, on the last one I seen him, I went out and actually I moved shortly after, but I flipped him off. But I knew he could
Mm.
see me. I gave him the
Mm.
birds. They may have to been
Wow.
he had to have some kind of knowledge because this is a true story. And actually, I got film of it. He come pulling over, went over my sister's house, and I'm looking up at it, and he's right. This was how you said it was extraterrestrial, but the
Mm.
way that it was made, I could look up and see it. But I could see the different components and everything. I was like I said, I was a Marine. I've been around all that stuff, but it's like, no, this is wrong. And then it sprayed something.
Mm.
He actually sprayed me, and when he sprayed, he took off. Well, then it stuck on my glasses. I had to actually, when I got up here, I had to go get another set of glasses. I never could get it off. It
What?
was still on there. I think I
That's
got it
crazy.
put. Yeah. So I don't believe it would have been somebody that would be like, how would you say it? Extraterrestrial. The machine was,
Yeah.
but I don't believe what was in it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when I picked them off, I'm sure they don't understand,
Yeah. Yeah.
what I was doing. But somebody did because he came over, and I'm talking right over my sister's house, right
Oh
where I
wow.
was at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's some
Anyway, that
very
was
interesting stories out there that that have happened to people. And yeah, I mean, right now we're looking at all the situations with three-eye athletes. I've been looking at UFOs for a long time, also, and I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of things that you've seen over the years. But I want to thank you for coming up. I'm gonna
yeah,
get back
no
to the audience
problem.
right now, and I'm gonna give them a little information about the Bible and stuff. But thank you so much, and you're welcome to come up again if you have any other stories in the future.
Well, no problem. I appreciate it, my friend.
No problem. Have a good one. Have a good
You
night.
have a wonderful
You
evening.
too. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Let me see. Okay, that was an interesting story. Yeah, I always listen to stories like that. I've been looking at the internet and at people what people have to say when it comes to this subject about UAPs, UFOs. There's so much out there. I stopped looking at it for many years. It's just a lot of information, and I never take away from people whenever they have experiences about this kind of stuff because a lot of people are having and the thing is this though, if you go back to like even the 90s or early 2000s, everything was more limited because we didn't have access to to these things right here, recording and all that stuff. We didn't have. So right now information is traveling so fast that we get things in real time today. Anything that happens, I don't know if you guys remember that thing that happened in Florida at the mall. People are still asking questions about what happened over there in Florida. So it's pretty interesting. And like I said, I like to stay at the forefront. But one of the things that we have to understand, right? I'm gonna read a passage right now to you guys right now, and I want you guys to take this. And I came across this some time ago. Let me see if it's the right phone because I think it's this one. Let me see. And I want to expand just a little bit on here. I'm giving about 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes on this idea. Now we've been talking about Babylon for some time, and we've been talking about the different scenes where the signs of Jesus' second coming are being set. Now, one of the things that I wanted to tell you guys about this is that we have this video. We have the gentleman that was up here talking about the things that he's experienced, and we have to understand something is that there's more play than we have been told or have been led to understand. And I realized this a long time ago, 20 years ago, that I realized this. So I always pay close attention to what's being said, and especially what's not being said, right? So I'm gonna read this part to you guys, and this is Book of Revelation, verse of Revelation 18, verse 13. And so this is describing in this passage Babylon, and what happens in Babylon. Basically, Babylon is a system of commerce. If you want to in the frame of mind, right? It's a system of commerce on a spiritual level, and I've explained before that Babylon is a spiritual entity in the cosmos. Now, look at what I'm gonna read. So it's giving the description. Verse 13 goes into cinnamon, spice, incense, myrrh, frankincense, wine, oil, fine flour, and these are the things that are trafficked and commerced, right, through the system of Babylon. And I'll explain a little more. Wheat, cattle, and sheep, horses and chariots, and slaves. That is human souls. So I came across this verse a while ago, and I did pray on this verse. That God gave me a little, not a little, got illuminated to what it means. And we've known since like the 19s, and we can go back to Roswell. We go up into like the 90s, and we always understood that there was always stories coming out of people having encounters, right? And the idea was people have come out since like back then, and there's documentaries about this where people have encounters where they've been taken in a craft, and there's been experiments that have been done on them. Okay, now when it comes to that idea, we have to understand something. The revelation that I received from God about the times of Noah, right? I receive it's not in the Bible directly in the Bible, but it's a illumination that the Holy Spirit gave me some time ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And what happened is that when the Bible talks about the times of Noah, one of the things that we look at the story about what is being said at the human level, right? The how humans were behaving, and also the giants and all those things, right? And it says that wickedness had multiplied on earth, and there was a lot of wickedness. What's not being said in the passage directly is about the otherworldly situations that were happening. There was experiments that were being done by people referring to them as fallen angels, and there was some experiments that were doing on humans. And one of the reasons why these fallen angels do it, because they want to contaminate the DNA of humans, right? But I think one of the reasons why they've been doing it also, this is the reason why I when people say that a certain person is the antichrist, like Elon Musk or maybe Donald Trump, some people say even Obama, some they've even thrown Obama in there many times. But the thing is this though, is that what people don't understand, and I would say this, that if I think this is very it's going to be something that's going to happen, that I don't think the Antichrist typically is going to be born from a woman like Jesus Christ was, or maybe he will, but I think that somehow maybe he's going to skip that process and possess some type of hybrid human concept, and he's going to integrate technology, some kind of integration with technology. I think that's what's happening. So I think what they've been doing since Noah's time also is that they've been, maybe experimenting in a way to how they're gonna give him that body. And I'm talking about the fallen angels. They have great technology, guys. And this is the thing that we have to understand, that the creations in the cosmos, right? The ones that are not angelic, they also have technologies. Technology exists throughout the cosmos. That's what the book of Ecclesiastes says the following: there is nothing new under the sun. And the metaphor I would say that's using there is that when you look at the sun in our direction, We think as humans we're so arrogant and prideful, and we think that we are the what is it, the peak of human existence. They think that humans, the captains, the greats, the scientists, the Einsteins, all of those people think that right now we're at the highest level that humanity has ever achieved. But little do they know that on the other side of the sun, and is referring to the cosmos, there are other humans out there who are far more advanced than we are. That's the part that a lot of people are not fully understanding about when you go behind the veil of what the Bible's telling us. And this is the part that there's going to be a lot of um, confusion, right? And this is one of the things that I'm looking at. There's going to be a lot of confusion that if something comes from up there before the rapture, right, and manifests itself and comes here, there's going to be a lot of fear and a lot of confusion by the world and a lot of Christians too. So is the one of the things that what I've been talking about, understanding our identity in Jesus Christ, because once you understand your identity in Jesus Christ, the kingdom of darkness is not going to be able to affect you, right? What they're going to be doing, because there's a complete movement towards this in what we're looking at in society and everything. Now, this story right here about this gentleman right here that we looked at right here, Michael Herrera, is very interesting because of the description that he's giving. I don't think this guy's false. People saying that on the internet, they're saying that he's making it up and it's not. I don't know if it's a distraction they're doing, but based on him now, when we look at what this is saying right here, in Revelation 18:13, it's describing the commerce that's going on. So one of the things that's happening is that um, that there's this relationship with humans, and also the kingdom of darkness, that they're coming here, and it appears that they're actually grabbing humans, right? They're doing um they're grabbing humans and they're doing whatever they are. But one of the things that you have to understand about these, and I'm gonna say this, okay, because I was having a conversation with somebody about this, and this that the interesting part is that these fallen angels, they aspire and they desire to have proximity to the human body. That's what they do. So how do we know this? Because the Bible says that when Moses, passed away, it says that Michael was went and fought the devil for Moses's body. So in the human body, there's something about the human body, whether it's an angel, an unclean spirit, or even a fallen angel. There's something that's attracted. They're attracted to about the human itself, the human body. So from what this passage right here says in Revelation 18:13, there's a commerce, and one of the parts of the commerce or the trading within the system of Babylon in the cosmos, there looks like they're actually trafficking humans, right? And then that this is I mean this is the English Standard Version. That's the translation that I'm reading right here, right? And this one, it says it gives specific, because another translation says slaves or humans as slaves, and this one actually says that is human souls. So it looks like the human soul and the body itself, they're doing something there. Now I'm gonna say this to you guys, okay? In God's sovereignty, right? In God's sovereignty, God, for some reason, He's allowing this to happen, right? He's allowing it. Now, I've never asked God directly, specifically. Maybe I should ask Him. He most likely will tell me. So one of the things that we have to look at is that, and this is what, and when I'm talking about a something that's happening from our level of existence up into the cosmos. That's what it's saying right there. Because it's describing Babylon, the system, the spiritual system, and it looked like something. And here's the funny part, though. I've only heard one actual minister talk about this in the past, and that's he's an apostle that actually mentioned this briefly. Now, I would say that I typically wouldn't talk about this, but it's something that we need to look at, and I'm gonna tell you guys why that is real quick for in a second. Now, I want you guys to understand something, and this is something, like I said, this is a subject that I do not like to touch, because there's a lot of implications to this. Am I making sense? Now, if I put up some of the information, like this guy that I was talking about in the video, he says himself, the scrutiny they go under, right? I don't want no three-letter agencies coming and knocking on my door. I don't want that. Actually, though, trust me, and they will come knocking on my door one day, sometime. But that's not it. So some information that I come across, I'm not gonna say it up here. Those are private conversations. Yeah, see, Chris, our pastor, used to talk about it. It's good, and I think it's a good idea for us to talk about it because, like I said, there's a lot of things are gonna go to a different level now, and they're gonna intensify. That's why I'm gonna say the following. Okay, they were mentioning here, and they said it in this video, both of these gentlemen, that governments of the world are for entertainment purposes only, for the algorithm, that this is big business. Okay, and we do understand that, right? And one of the things that you have to understand is that the people who touch on this subject, human trafficking more specifically, right, is that some of them getting a lot of trouble, some of them end up found unalived, some of them are go missing. And I'm gonna say this also, and I know I get in trouble with the algorithm when I say this. You have to understand that there's a whole entire, underground network that is involved in this sort of stuff, right? So when we look at this at the entire situation, we have to understand something, guys. And I'm gonna say this here to you guys, and I want you guys to please understand what I'm about to say. Okay, there's information that's being divulged on social medias, and you can find this information out there that the current administration, right? The current administration. I'm not gonna say it directly that it's Trump himself. I can't tell you that it's him, right? And like I said, both of these men said also that the government, right, of the government, the actual people in Congress, and all the different aspects of the government. I don't think that they are in the know about this. Now I'll tell you guys who I think is in the know and who's actually the ones who are pulling the strings. Pentagon. I'm gonna say that the Pentagon is in the know about this stuff. The people who run all this, the armed forces, everybody, basically, what do you call it? I would say that all the armed forces in America, they are basically, what's that word I'm looking for? They answer to the Pentagon, right? So I would say that the Pentagon would be one of the main places where you're gonna see that's moving the strings there. Does that make sense? And I will say this: I don't know if you guys know that the Pentagon also, it looks like they're the ones who control the CIA controls, and they also control the media through a lot of those places. I'm trying to code what I'm saying, guys, for the algorithm. So I know I can tell you directly a lot of things, but I can't fully do it on especially on social media. So I'm trying to go like frame it a certain way. So what I will tell you guys is this: is that now for us to we're never going to know who's directly right who's directly involved and who's directly in charge. I couldn't tell you 50% of the US government is in the know about this. It's a very very small club, and it's a very 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 powerful people. Now the people that we know about, like the Rothschilds, right? Well, let's say like the Elon Musk, the Steve Jobs, those people are typically they're just the front, the people that put in front as their representative. The real people behind this, we're never gonna know who they are, right? And let me tell you something, guys. I don't want to know who they are either. Okay, and if you know who they are, or if you might know who it is, send me a message or look at it. Look at the information. But I don't want to know who they are. I don't care about knowing about who they are. But I will tell you this. Okay, I'm gonna say this. And because I've seen this comment so many times in the comment section, so many times I've seen it, but I don't respond to this comment a lot of the times. I'm gonna tell you guys this, okay? And I'm gonna give you an idea about who is in the shadows and who are the people who are operating. There was a passage that Jesus told the Pharisees, right? Let me get a little bit before I say this one, because this is gonna be a little bit heavy for you guys. I'm gonna tell you guys who is the people who are in the pulling, in the shadows pulling. But I'm gonna take a little. This is gonna be a strong one for me right now. So there's a passage where the Pharisees, the scribes, I think it's the Sadducees were amongst the group, where Jesus told them, "You are from your father, right? The devil." He tells them, right? Tells that group of people. He tells them, "You are from your father, the devil." Now, the question is, why did Jesus specifically, right? Um, why does he specifically single them out specifically like that? I'm gonna tell you guys why it is. Why Jesus specifically identify them as such? The reason why he identified them as such, and I'm gonna give you guys something that I want you guys to you guys can write it down and meditate on this and let the Holy Spirit, give you these ideas, is because there is a group of people, right? And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not Donald Trump, and it's not the Republican Party, and it's not the Democratic Party. Now, are there some people in those groups that are in the know? Yes, but it's not that. What I'm gonna tell you is when Jesus told them, "You are your father, the devil," what is referring to is that there's a group of people on Earth. I can't tell you that they're vampires. I can't tell you that there are werewolves. I can't tell you that because I don't know that part. But I will tell you the part that I do know about. In the pre-existence, something happened where the devil was able to inseminate people. And I don't mean like regular human concept of insemination. I'm talking about that in the pre-existence, right? In the pre-existence, what happened is that they sinned at such a level that they went directly and they fully were submerged into the idea of being satanic or demonic. So when those people fell, they sinned. They had an irreversible ability to repent and go back to God. That makes sense, and I'm gonna tell you how we know that in the Bible. And not a lot of ministers are gonna talk about this. It requires the Holy Spirit and God to give you this insight, and it's given to some people, and God's given it to me. But I'm gonna tell you guys this. What happened is this: is that when that happened in eternity past, right? When they came here, right? When they came to this planet, there's a passage in the Bible that a lot of people bring up and says that it says that God desires that everybody be saved, right? And that's what I forget what verse it is. I have to look it up anyway. The Bible says that it's God's desire or His will that everybody be saved. But there's a but there, and I'm gonna tell you what it means. It says in the but it has to do with the Pharisees and the scribes also. So what happens is that when these people came lost, and they came and asked Jesus, and they inquire of Jesus certain things, the Bible says that Jesus spoke to them in parables. The reason why Jesus spoke to them in parables is because it gives a description there. It says that seeing with their eyes they will not see, and hear with the ears they will not believe. So why is it that the Bible claims that God, the Father, I'm talking about the Father, wants everybody to come to salvation and repentance? But why is it that He specifically singled that group of people out, those Pharisees and the scribes? And when it came down to the point where they could have been saved, if Jesus would have spoke to them directly about the kingdom of heaven, Jesus stopped and He said, I'm going to talk to these people, but I'm going to talk to them in a coded way. That way they cannot see the light. Because if they would have seen the light or if they would have believed, it looks like God would have been obligated to save them. This is heavy, guys. This is heavy, right? Am I making sense right here? Put a one in the comment section if I'm making sense right now. Put a one in the comment section. So what happens is this, is that Jesus specifically said that, right, to them in parables, and they didn't believe. Am I making sense? So what is that telling us right now is that there's a group of people on this planet currently right now that are never going to believe. But these people were designated from eternity past to come out here and fulfill a role and to operate in the shadows. So from what we looked at least from what we can speculate about the idea about who's operating in the shadows, it looks like these people, those specifically those people from uh, from from that were in front of Jesus, they went underground. They decided to go and operate underground because at that moment Jesus actually told them who they were. He clarified to them, this is who you are. Am I making sense? So that was their identity. Same thing with Judas as well. Same thing with Judas was in the same boat those Pharisees and scribes were in. They were basically, what do you call it? Birds of the same feathers, if you want to say it like that, right? So what's going on right now is that if you want to know and have an idea about who is in the background pulling those strings, the people who are doing it are those children of the devil, and those people are evil. That makes sense, and they are very powerful when it comes to this. They pull the strings in politics and many other aspects of society. So but the reason why I'm saying telling you guys this is because of this. because the only way you ever and I'm gonna tell you guys a story real quick. Oh, I just remember this story with my dad. I'm gonna tell you guys a story. Maybe my dad won't. I didn't ask him if I can tell the story, but you guys don't know who he is, so it's fine. He don't even speak English. He speaks Spanish, so it doesn't matter. Even if he heard this, he probably won't. He will most likely won't understand. Actually, he understands English a lot more now. But anyway, let me go back to what I was saying. So my dad had an uncle, right? And he's told me this story quite a few times. He was actually a warlock back when he was a little kid. So he told me, and I'm gonna tell you guys the story that he told me. He told me that he realized, or his uncle realized, that he was destined to be a warlock and a witch here on Earth. So the guy was like powerful. So what happened with him is that he went into the armed forces. Pay attention to what I'm about to tell you guys. He went into the armed forces and he was recruited. And this was like in like 50s or 60s or something back then, right? I forgot when he passed away, but he was older. He was about close to 80 or something when he passed away. Powerful warlock, which God rebuked the devil and the work that a man did, right? And he says that they recruited him into witchcraft in the armed forces in Honduras, obviously not in America. I'm talking about Honduras. So, from what my like his uncle told him to my dad, he says that the way they recruit these people and that the armed forces from Honduras, I'm talking about America, that they actually use all this witchcraft because to attain power and to attain all those things that they do in the armed forces, they're into the occult. And I'm gonna tell you guys why that is, because the who controls the technology, you guys know, it's not the government directly, it's the armed forces of the world. Every armed forces of the world, they control the technology within those countries. I don't know, I think you guys know that, right? I don't know if you guys know that. So the reason why they go into the occult is because from the armed forces, that's where they have experimental clandestine, I would say, organizations that, like the CIA, NSA, ATF. And then you have experiments like MK Ultra that happened back in the 1930s. If you guys want to look into that, you guys should look into that, right? So the reason why they do those things is because they recruit from there. Am I making sense? So the people who are in the shadows and working there, these people are actually evil people, and they venerate. Now, here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you something very interesting about this part, though, is that these people are only being used by the devil. God rebuke them. They're being used by the devil here, but they're gonna have the same faith as everybody else that's human when they go into the next life, or they pass from this existence. They're gonna have the same faith. They're just being used. So when you look at these people who are as evil as they are, and as dark and sinister as they are, that's they're just playing a role and they're being used by the kingdom of darkness. Now I'm gonna say this because I know a lot of people want to point at Trump and say he's the Antichrist. I don't think he's the Antichrist. Even though it looks like some things are like kind of checking the box, but he's not. Now, is Mr. Yours truly, Donald Trump? Is he, part of the cabal? I think he's part of the cabal, but I don't think he actually has never really met the actual people. Does that make sense? I'm talking about the real people in the background, because these people are isolated, guys. I mean, unless you can claim that the kings and queens of Europe and in England and all that, I would probably say that I would say that they are very deep into the occult as well. But I think that there's more. I don't think the queen and the kings of them, they're specifically them yet. But I think that there is, like people in their families that are very like embedded into that. So the reason why I want to talk about this, I want to bring this up, because we have to understand something. Now, we do pray to God that that never happens to any of our relatives. It doesn't happen to our families, and we pray, and God does protect us. He has protection around us, this is another thing that my dad told me. We didn't know. Crazy what he told me. So he told me this, that his uncle specifically told him the following, and I love it. And we praise God, we praise Jesus, and we pray the Holy Spirit for what I'm about to tell you. So my dad says that a lot of people that go into the cemeteries, right? The cemeteries, they go into, like, into tombs, and he says that they go to the different tombs in the cemetery. I'm talking about witches and warlocks and people like that are into the occult. They say they go in there, and he says that if there is a person that was a Christian in life, he says that they whatever entities operating behind them tells them that they cannot use that particular body of that Christian because there's a powerful force that hinders whatever whatever they're doing. I praise God for that. I'll tell you why that is, because it tells you that the Spirit of God, these beings, and I'm talking about the spiritual beings, they are basically, they fear that light of God that it's in us. Thank you, God, for that. And let me tell you something. Right? This probably I don't think it would ever happen to us individually as Christians when we're gonna be abducted by any of these things. I don't think it's ever gonna happen. I've never heard of it, of somebody who's actually a Christian. I'm talking about an actual born again believer. There are people out there who claim Christians, they're Christians, and it happened to them. You would have to question that Christianity about that person. Sorry to say it like that, right? But as Christians, I don't. Even demons can't possess us. Now, can we be hindered? Can we be like attacked? Can we be tormented by them? If we open a door for the spiritual realm for those beings to come and do those things, yes. If we open the door, they're gonna have the ability to do it. But if you don't open the door for them, they're not able to touch you. We can see that differently. For example, we can say this, for example. I think it was Paul, right, guys? Peter. My brain can't think. I think was it Peter or Paul? Somebody correct me here. But it says that they had something in the flesh, and it says that it will come and smack him a little bit because they wanted to keep him humble. I think it was Paul, actually, right? That there was something in the flesh that God put in him, and then once in a while this entity will come and smack him a little bit, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying? So why did God allow some entity to come and smack Paul around a little bit? Because God in his sovereignty was trying to keep him humble. Maybe he was a very really egotistical person or something because of the great because of the great work that God was doing with them, when came to the gospel and all the revelation. So don't think, ladies and gentlemen, that us, and the people who God is revealing and is giving so much revelation and so much word, we are being, we're being held to a certain standard as well. And but we're here to transmit this grace of the kingdom of heaven over to you all by grace and by love, in our servitude to God in the kingdom of heaven. So, but what I'm trying to explain to you guys also is that we're going into Halloween right now, guys. And I would say this: I don't. My birthday is actually on Halloween. Just so you guys know, it's on Halloween. I stopped celebrating Halloween when I was a little kid. I became a Christian when I was 12, and I don't remember. I don't think I've ever celebrated Halloween since then. Like actually, me dress up or anything like that. I've never done. I didn't like in fifth grade. I would think I was like 10 or 11. I think I was 10 years old when I dressed up as a clown. And after that, I was like, this is not for me. And then when I became a Christian, I just like, I can't do that. I can't. I don't practice and I don't celebrate. I celebrate my birthday obviously with my family, but you're not gonna see me in a costume going over there. Oh, Chris' husband, his birthday's on Halloween too. High five, high five. So what I'm gonna say this to you guys though is, be very careful during Halloween, guys. Um, I would say that there's a lot of activity that's going on with the witches and all the warlocks and all these people who are into the occult. This is when it gets very, very heavy. And I think we as Christians need to steer away from those things. And I would say if it offends God if we partake in in those festivities, at least Halloween. Okay, so be very careful with those things because I'm gonna say that when it comes to Halloween, I'll say this: two of the biggest sins that we can get in a lot of trouble with God is spiritual fornication and spiritual adultery. These are the biggest things that we can get in trouble with God if we commit a spiritual fornication or spiritual adultery. If you want to know what that is, take it up with your leadership at church and find out what that is. But there is the commandments in the Old Testament. Most of them apply to the flesh, us. But there's aspects that if we, for example, reading the horoscope, right, that it's getting on the level of spiritual adultery and spiritual fornication. When you open a door to spiritual entities that are fallen, like demons or unclean spirits, when you open the door to those things, you are getting into the realm of committing adultery or fornication at a spiritual level. Does that make sense? So this is one of the toughest things that, and there's a lot of Christians, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna say like this, that are asleep. Some Christians are actually sick because they open the door to the spiritual realm of the kingdom of darkness, and they don't even know. Some people are actually cut off by God when they get to the level of doing those things. Okay, this is real, this is true. And if you are a person who's been involved in those things, or you're falling into a sin like that, today we ask you to um today we ask you to repent and rededicate your life to God. So this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to say this. Over the years that I've been studying the Bible, and that God has given me so much by his grace and his mercy, sometimes as Christians we don't know the kind of stuff we're getting into. You know what I mean? So the Bible does say that my people perish for lack of understanding, right? So there's theologians that have been theologians for 20 or 30 years, have a lot of Bible verses in there, but they don't understand what it's saying because they depend on this. They're not depending on the Spirit of God. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure tonight. I'm gonna expand a little bit more on this later. I'm get really nervous, right? I get very nervous whenever I bring these subjects up because they actually took me off YouTube tonight. So I'm gonna have to go find out what's going on. They didn't give me a strike. I think it was just a warning on over there. So I'm gonna try to upload this video. I'm gonna cut it up and I'm gonna try to upload it. I'm recording on everything right now. So all these things normally I record them, but what it tells me when things are taken down is that it tells us that we're putting information out there that they don't want us to know. That means we're in the we're going in the right direction, and we're l- looking at things that are factual and actual. Does that make sense? So that's good, because if there's an opposition, that means that at least what we're doing, is. And here's the thing: I want to before I get off, I want to tell you guys this. My desire, my love for the things of God, and my desire for me is that you all right here become equipped, right? That you all can become somewhat of a copy of me, and you guys can get this information, study it, pray on it, let the Holy Spirit. My job is to present it. It is your job, not your job, but it should be your obligation in a way for spiritually for you to go pray on these things, meditate on them with God, and say, God, confirm these things to me. Okay. I can't confirm things to you. I cannot convict you of anything. I can only present the information. And I pray to the Holy Spirit that everybody who listens to these transmissions, who's listening to all this stuff. By the way, I just want to let you guys know something very interesting right now. I'm looking at the whole list of people on here right now. It looks like it's mostly women. Wow, ladies. I just looked at it right now. It's mostly women. Ladies, if all of you in here, remember that God is gonna move very soon, and He wants to use every single one of you. I just looked at the list. There's nothing about women in here. Beautiful, beautiful. God is gonna work in women in the next years and next months. God is gonna restore women. God is gonna. Hey, you know what? The men are out there, acting a fool over there. God says, front of the class. And the people who come to the front of the class, those are the ones who God is gonna lift up and be mighty powerful men and women, the ones are in here, that God is gonna use as instruments to glorify the kingdom and expand the kingdom, and we are gonna rise, men and women also. But I'm speaking to the ladies right now, and this is beautiful because remember that Jesus used women, right? Jesus used women when he resurrected. He it was the first ones over there. So that prophecy can be said about today also, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies, like I said, encourage one another, help one another, and we're entering interesting times. I do not fear any of this, by the way. Uh, I don't think I've ever ministered fear to you all. Peace, joy, and love. And the things that we're gonna face pretty soon in the world. And one thing I was gonna say to you guys is this, and I'm gonna reiterate this real quick also. I hope it doesn't happen. I can't say that it will or will not, but there's a possibility that we're gonna have some type of like civil unrest if people don't get their benefits right on the first or next month. If they don't give these benefits next month, I would say some big people are gonna take to the streets, y'all. So let's get ready for those things and let's pray for our cities. Let's pray for our police departments. Let's pray for our mayors. Let's pray for Alfonso, if you're still there, benefits for food stamps. I think it's like 47 million Americans are about to lose their benefits November 1st because of the government shutdowns and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys know that, but I want to tell you guys that up front directly because not everybody's aware, but there's a lot of people on social media who are getting these benefits, right? Uh, oh, something is happening important right now. Something's happening important right now. I'm gonna look it up. Thanks for the info. I'm gonna look. I always try to stay on top of this, guys. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is that we need to start getting into prayer, intercession, because we need that. We need that protection from God, and we need that God to send the help. Does that make sense? God is going to send the help. All we have to do is ask God, just give the order. We have to exercise our faith in these times. We have to activate that faith and say, like, just give the order. National Guards in the streets. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know that. I'm gonna look that up right now because it's 11:50 over there. Okay, ladies, ladies and gentlemen. So as you guys know, is that, and I'm gonna say this. Oh, let me say this. Oh, algorithm, please work with me today. Uh, I said this about before Trump took into office. I said that we were probably going to see. Oh my goodness. I remember I said this about a year ago. Before Trump, I said that come November, December of this year, we're probably going to see some kind of situation, and we're probably going to see the National Guards on the streets of America. I said this about a year ago. I said it. I can't say that that was a prophecy that I was given. I'm just saying that's what I said. The reason why I said that is because my understanding was that the administration that was coming in, they were coming full force, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm gonna say this, ladies and gentlemen, there are videos that are going viral of white people, black people, Chinese people, not Hispanics, right? Us, that those people who are being very vocal against ICE and DHS and stuff like that. They're literally standing up and calling them out. Another thing that I was gonna say, guys, okay? This is kind of heavy for me to say too. Listen, okay. Um, how do I say this? When Obama did the same thing, when he did the same things too, there's reports that were coming out, and these things weren't as big back then when Obama did it. It was the same time. Okay. So from a law perspective, Obama didn't break the law the way Donald Trump is doing it. But what happened is this: during Obama's administration, there was a lot of fishy activity going on with the children that were being taken away from their parents when people were crossing the border back then. They were separating, straight out separating the kids, and we don't know what happened with that. Specifically, we don't know. And by the way, and when I did some reports, I did some reports during Biden's administration, the beginning, and the people who were coming out and they were talking about when it comes to Biden, and they were saying, and they actually took down a lot of that information. There were a couple, and I can't find their content right now. I'm about to look for it where they were putting even Biden. So I'm not gonna blame Obama specifically or Biden or Trump specifically, but what I'm saying is that when it comes to this immigration situation, right, there comes a place where they're saying to the populace or the American citizenry through Fox News and those organizations that hey, they broke the law, so they don't deserve to be treated as humans. Typically, that's basically the idea they're putting. And if you go on a lot of these forums, a lot of these videos, people people they a lot of people on there are saying, yeah, good job, Ice. And I think a lot has to do with AI and bots and stuff like that that are on the internet. I don't think that's actually people who are actually saying that, because when you look at the accounts, you can tell it's a bot or some kind of like AI type of technology where they're trying to make it seem like everybody's on board with what Trump is doing, right? So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that this is actually happening. So do I think that 60% of Republicans, for example, are on board with what Trump is doing? I don't think that's a thing. I mean, I would say maybe 20, maybe 30%, maybe 40 are on board and say, yeah, do it what you're doing. But it looks like there's a lot of backlash that's being received by this. So the reason why I'm talking about this stuff, guys, is because if we are looking at what is happening, we have to understand that there's a full frontal, I want to say movement towards so much confusion where it's getting hard to even tell what's what now. And I'm good at this. I'm very good at this. I don't really have the technology to actually be able to verify some things. It costs a little bit of money to have some of the technology. What I'm talking about is like AI. Guys, AI right now, I've been doing some research on 3i Atlas, and a lot of the stuff that the algorithm is pushing on, and especially on YouTube, has to do with AI. They're getting the likeness of like even scientists, and they're using AI, and they sound exactly like the science. It's not them though, by the way. That's what I'm trying to say. And they're just using AI. They put in a script, and they're making them say whatever they want to say or whatever they're trying to push. But the algorithm is actually pushing this information. I can't tell whether just actually some of the videos is the actual, scientist or the mathematician. But that for me, I'm looking at this stuff and where do I get? But I mean, I understand the science and the physics, so I can dig a little deeper and be able to tell what's really happening. What's going to happen with people who? I'm not saying that people are dumb or people that don't really understand these things, because not everybody, wants to sit there and actually study this, because some of them are kind of complex. So I need to do a lot of work right now. So, but what I'm trying to say to you guys is this: is that they're using AI technologies, they're using bots. So when you guys see all those messages from accounts that have 2 or 3 followers that are private, and they have like a blurry pixelated video, I mean picture, profile picture, either on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, understand that those are most likely probably bots or AI technology they're using, because not everybody, most people are not going to put those type of dismissive or type of messages on forums. Maybe some of them would, you know what I mean? But when you look at that, when you analyze the actual profile, it's bots. And why are they doing that? Because they're using AI technology so they can push that narrative that, hey, uh, most 40 or 50% of Americans are on board. It's horrible what's going on, guys. And I've been looking at this for the last week, and I'm like, which one's which? Which one's which? So it takes taking me a little bit longer for me to filter the bad information from the good information. So I'm gonna tell you guys before I get off right here. I'm gonna give you guys something, okay? Expect, and I'm hearing some people, right? For example, I'm hearing like I don't know if you guys know this, but Sean Ryan, the guy on the left right here, he's the host of the Sean Ryan show, right? The guy on the left is actually former CIA. He used to be a CIA operative. I forget how long ago, but he used to be. I do look at his information, but whenever I look at his information, I'm still with thoughtful. But it looks like some of his information is checking out with what he's putting up. But he is former CIA. Anybody who's been in the CIA, FBI, NSA, ATF, when they talk, I don't take I don't take none of what they say serious, or I don't take it gospel or anything like that. But he's basically a plant. He's a plant because they want to control the information. So that's the reason why his channel got so big, because the CIA is the one who's actually put him there. So just so you guys know, but I bring the information up, mostly for the guy on the right. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Oh, my microphone's being really weird tonight. But I mostly put it for the guests that they put him up, but I have my suspicion about Sean Ryan still. Okay. What else I was gonna say? So, oh yeah, what I was gonna say about technology. Okay, I don't have my walkie-talkies right here. Okay, and this is the reason why I've been warning people for some time already. Get you analog systems. Okay, get you some analog systems. I got me my walkie-talkies from the TikTok shop, and I do have the TikTok shop right there, and I have some walkie-talkies and generators, some solar generators already there on my TikTok shop. I picked the ones that I'm gonna be using. Can you guys hear me? Hold on, give me a second. Something's going on with my sound today. I don't know if it's really weird. I think I'm going on and off. I have another microphone over here. Maybe I should use this one. Hold on a second. Can you guys hear me? Put a one if you guys can hear me over there. Put a one in the comment section if you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me properly? You guys hear me good? Okay. This microphone's being a little bit weird, but I have this microphone, and I only use it on certain instances. Might be my headphones. But anyway, so yeah, what I was gonna say to you guys is this: is that Get you some technology, um, create a plan with your families. Um, Also, the thing is this though is that if there is civil unrest, if there's a situation where like yeah, I'm multi-streaming, yeah, but I think it might be my headphones that I'm glitching right now. But if yeah, create a plan, communicate with your peoples, and like I said, get analog systems like walkie-talkies, solar panels. I think we're about to enter a very, very, very interesting season in a way. I don't think that Thanksgiving and Christmas this year is going to be anything of what we've lived since 2020. Does that make sense? So I would say to you guys, this is that get into prayer, guys. The answer right now is prayer, intercession. Get into that, and we're gonna be coming on here on this channel. If you guys have any ideas or anything, let me know. Send me messages if you guys have if you guys have any questions or anything. I was thinking about making a couple of videos on coming on live and showing you guys how to use the ham radios, the walkie talkies that I have. If you guys want me to do that, send me a message or put a one in the comment section. And cause I'm gonna buy one of the generators that I have on there also. But I mean, if I can teach you guys how they work and all that, that should be also a good idea. And also we can give each other tips and of things to use outside of our phones, because I will tell you guys this right now: if there's civil unrest that could happen, they could always declare martial law. They're gonna restrict the internet. I don't know if you guys know this, but when the war started in Ukraine, in Russia back then, they actually brought down the internet. They did it in Afghanistan. Um, you know, yeah, yeah, the ones that I have there, the one I'm picking. I'm gonna buy more stuff on there, but some of the stuff might not be on the TikTok shop. But if I have something from the TikTok shop, I can come up here and like show you guys how to use those stuff. I do this stuff regularly, so but if it can help you guys out, get some of the technology and you guys learn how to use it, it's always good. But I think I would do those lives like in the morning, not in the afternoon, because I reserved the afternoon for these lives. But if I did, I'll probably do them like maybe like around 5, 6 in the morning, LA time. And if you guys want to come in here, I'll probably do that. But I think it's gonna be important, for us to understand what's gonna happen and understand something, guys. Like, yes, God is supernatural. He's gonna intervene on a supernatural level. He's gonna take care of us. But we also have to be proactive with the things that we're gonna do. And like I said, these things right here that you see on here, I used to work with cell phones many years ago, and I understand how the technology works. I understand how the infrastructure of telecommunication works, and I will tell you this right now: there are switches. They call them switches in every metro. There's about, I think in LA there's like five right now, five switches, and these switches are basically the hubs where, like, when you have a tower, they're all interconnected with one specific hub. Those hubs are controlled, and basically the authorities are the ones who control those, right? The authorities, like, I don't know, police departments and all of them. So they're able to limit those things whenever yeah, Oracle. Alfonso's asking about Oracle. Oh man, Oracle is they are advancing a lot. They're advancing a lot. They are. I think Oracle is going to be the one company that is gonna. They're setting up the infrastructure for the one world government when it comes to telecommunications and finances. What he's asking about Oracle right here. So I'm looking at also the CEO of Oracle. That guy's pulling a lot of strings. Also into cryptocurrency. So they're gonna merge all the systems together. Now, the analog systems, frequencies, and all those are the things that we can tap into and we can actually, use to communicate. But understand me when I tell you this: these are gonna be very limited in case of a national emergency, natural disaster, earthquakes, or even the declaration of martial law. These are going to be limited. Okay, please understand what I'm telling you right now. Okay, so for me, I know I've never really used walkie talkies or ham radios, but I'm learning how to use those. Those are basically analog systems, and and they can actually block those also. So, but you can pick the right when you get the right information. The reason why it's good to have those is because you can use it as a scanner. So if they tell everybody to go indoors and they're gonna be marching down the streets, with like on Humvees and stuff like that, you turn those on and you can listen to what's going on in your surroundings. If you have a tall building, you can grab a repeater and you can put it up there, and you can grab frequencies from much larger distances. And also, if you get something that walkie talkies that got a 6 mile range, maybe a 7 mile range with extended antennas, you can if the phones are down and you got to go to the store or to the shelter or get food from somewhere, you guys can communicate amongst your family with walkie talkies and analog systems like walkie talkies or ham radios. Okay. I wanted to give you guys this information because I'm hoping that nothing happens, as of November 1st. There's a 50-50 chance something can happen. And somebody just said right here that there's something going on over there. I forgot what state. Let me go back up into the comment section right here. He said it over here. Uh, you said that, oh, Alfonso, I'm looking at your message. I didn't see this message before. Alive when the three eye atlas is gonna be in our solar system. I heard it was the 30th when it's gonna be going around the sun. I heard it was the 30th, Alfonso. I'll look into that, so I'll double check on that. And I will be, if you guys want me to do a live one, we can maybe look at some kind of like scientific channel, or maybe some kind of theoretical physicist. I'll look into that. Maybe I may do a live and explain to you guys what they're saying when it comes to that. Let me see anything else right here. But yeah, somebody said there's something in Portland. There's something going on with the National Guard in Portland. So let me go back to what I was saying, guys. So it's already 12:05. It's getting late for some of us, but I want to. So I'm gonna stay on top of things here, and I might from here until maybe the November 1st, November 2nd. I might do out of nowhere live to bring information or what's going on. Typically, I don't want to dedicate the channel to those kind of things because there's other avenues that I do that. But I think that there's a lot of you all here that are really paying attention, and you guys are really learning a lot. And I think that this audience right here is becoming very, very knowledgeable, and you guys are very interested in all this information, which I like a lot. My other channels that I have, those are more like on a different level, and I don't really communicate with that community as much. It's more just for content creation over there. But it says city council home suspicious fire. Are you talking? Fritz, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? So I just want to let you guys know this. But the reason why I'm bringing this to the forefront right now is because, oh, okay, I'm gonna look into that right now when I get off. So what I'm gonna say to you guys, I'm gonna keep an eye on these things, and if something happens, I'm gonna try to I'll come on live for a little bit, depending on the hour of the day. But I'm gonna keep a really close eye on this situation right now because one of the reasons why Trump wanted to put the National Guard, and I think it was like 13 states, is because it's just they're putting the pieces into place because of the things they're pushing towards that they want. Ladies and gentlemen, let's understand something, okay? That when they take food benefits from 47 million Americans, that's a lot of people. Okay. And I'm not gonna talk about the people who take advantage or defraud the system. I'm not gonna even talk about them. I'm talking about, elderly, veterans who are disabled, who cannot, can't go to work. I'm talking about those people. How many of those people are the ones in those benefits? I don't know. Can it be 3 million, 5 million, 10 million? Even anything over in the hundreds of thousands, it's not good. So yeah, like I said, guys, let's pray. Let's get into prayer and let's ask God for him to intervene. Now, like I said, I'm not a fear monger and I'm not here to like put fear into people, but we do have to pay very close attention because I think that what the government is doing right now, they're pushing towards some type of movement or some type of like civil unrest. And if that's the case, they're doing everything possible for us to see these videos of like, for example, guys, I saw a video today where ICE jumped over a fence into a private property and they tried to arrest two gardeners. I think they were gardeners or something. They were doing some kind of work at a like some kind of apartment complex. They jumped the fence to try to arrest them in the property. That's illegal. And they can't cross a gate that's locked. No cop, law enforcement without a warrant cannot step over that fence. It's illegal, and for them to try to arrest them on property, that's illegal. They did that, and the guys jumped. They jumped into a window, and one of the people that lives in a complex helped them out. and they were apparently they were legal. They had legal. I don't know if it was legal status or they were actually U.S. citizens, but they let them go. I think one of them was still in custody. They were about to let him go. The other one they let him go because they had paperwork. You know, they had the paperwork. So that's highly illegal for any law enforcement. Without a, I don't care who you are, whether federal or just local law enforcement, they're not allowed to jump over a fence or break into somebody's house without probable cause of a crime or a warrant. It's just the law, guys. I can't sit here and justify or even do it. You know what I mean? Just the benefits we're talking about, what's probably going to happen November 1st when it comes to, if they're not going to give people their benefits. And like I said, I don't know if it's going to happen. They're going to give them, but a lot of people are saying that they won't do it. So, like I said, people go hungry after 2 or 3 days of no food, and they might take to the streets. They might go to Targets. They might go to Home Deep. I mean, to Costco's and places like that. And that's a possibility. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I've been here for a while. I will see you guys in the next one. If I don't come on live until Tuesday, I'll see you guys Tuesday. But I'll see if I come live one of these days or anything like that. Okay, so she said that Chris said that Walmart's supposed to be closed. Yeah, these companies, Walmart's, Targets, they're getting ready for this. They're getting ready for all of this because something could happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Have a good night, and let's get into prayer. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday. If anything, I'll try to come for in case there's some kind of emergency or news. I'll try to come on live during the week before Tuesday. You guys have a good night.